stinks.
Running from the man, yeah, the madman's coming, yeah, the man's gunning for me tonight. I spent the last week running from the heat, but the beat's coming alive. Let's get lost tonight. Lord, who's on my right?
Hello. Sorry, adjusting my volume. Wackos. Hello, wackos. Welcome to Without a Country. I am Corinne Fisher, and boy, what a show do we have for you today. Happy post-election day. Big thank you to everyone who showed up and voted. And again, I do mean no matter who you voted for. You know, in my personal life, do I have, opinions about who you voted for? Yeah, of course. But my job on air as a public person, to me, that I have decided for myself is that step one, get fucking people interested and get them voting. And that is step one. And that is what I am working on. And I am excited to do that. And again, so thank you for getting out into the polls. And hopefully you voted, on everything too. That's like my second goal. So it's like, first we got you out voting in local elections, and then it's like, did you make it to the back of the ballot? Did you actually not just vote for people, but also for proposals, for or against proposals? Like, that is what my goal is. And simplifying it, yesterday for election day, I did go over all the ballot proposals for New York City. Hopefully I simplified them. And ultimately, I offered how I was voting and how how I got to my decision. But if I explain them and you said, I feel differently, I'm going to vote a different way, great. God bless. Love that you voted on them. That's what we want to do, because when we all participate, the decisions that are made really reflect the constituents. And that's what we ultimately want, right? And so if sometimes elections happen and what reflects the constituents, as we saw when Trump won his second term, to me, that's important data. That's data that says, wow, we have some changes to make. And finally, I think Trump's second term, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, it's hard to say it was like a blessing in disguise when, people are being ripped off the street by ICE and deported. So I can't really say that, but I think it was like apparently the wake-up call that the Democratic Party needed. And there were, there's a lot of casualties because it took us this much to wake up. But I think that we, last night was a real, historical election night, and hopefully we can keep this momentum up. I have a lot to say, really excited about this episode. Obviously, I'm so excited to talk about the mayoral race because I'm like, wow, who's more knowledgeable than the candidates themselves, So it's exciting. But before that, just a reminder, New York Comedy Festival starts this weekend. And Guys We Effed, Slutsgiving is doing a big theater show at the Crown Hill Theater in Brooklyn on Friday, November 14th. We're already over half sold out, but let's get it close to sell out. It's very hard to sell out New York Comedy Festival shows because there are so many shows. It's one of the most packed festivals. And so it does oversaturate the city, much like Netflix is a Joke does in Los Angeles. That being said, we have such an incredible guest booked, and we're going to probably have more than that, but one really, really, really cool guest booked who you're not going to miss, who we're trying to keep a surprise. And then it is just going to be an interactive love letter to, 12 years of GWF. Christina and I haven't performed together at all this year, so it's our only live performance of 2025. Obviously I've been pretty busy with other things, but I'm so excited to do this show. GWF Live is always so fun because of the show that Christina and I have created together. So please, 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 the link is in my bio on Instagram. I'm at Philanthropy Gal. You can also go to the GWF bio. You can go to Christina's bio. I think Eric Freddy even has it in. And there are gonna be some faces from over the years. I just highly recommend you coming to this show. If you're in New York or New Jersey, Connecticut, take a train and make it a night. It's a Friday night. Come on, New York's not that hard of a trip. And also, it's a cool time to be in New York. It's fall. The holiday windows are going to start to be up. You can holiday shop. You can enjoy holiday meal before it gets too busy. All the outdoor shops the Bryant Parks and stuff, those are already open, and they're not too crazy yet because it's before Thanksgiving, so it's actually tolerable. Make it a girls' night. Make it a guys' weekend. Come for your birthday if you've been thinking I want to see them live. I want to come to New York City. This is the show to come see. So hard sell. Sorry, I gotta be capitalist before we go socialist, right? I have until January 1st. So that's my little blab right there. And now let's get into it. This is our post-election day special. I have a lot to say. Mike has a lot to say. Prepared a little semi-monologue for you just to go over everything. And then we have some great articles. Again, really excited. Grab some popcorn. Get a drink if you drink. I'm not only am I basically off alcohol, I've been off alcohol for years now. I'll have a martini here and there. I'm not completely sober, but I'm I really never drink anymore. But I'm also, this week, I decided to pretty much go off of coffee level caffeine. I don't know. I just had a conversation with my brother. He's super smart. He's an engineer. And I just feel it adds, like, I was, it just makes me anxious when I'm not really an anxious person. So I don't know. We'll see. And I actually don't even think it gives me energy. I think it's like, I just honestly like going to Dunkin' because I'm friends with the staff. And now I'm just like getting iced tea, which very low caffeine. So that's an update from my life. That's, you're like a medical update. All right. Let's get into it. So congratulations to the new mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran Mamdani. His name really isn't hard to say. It actually is pretty like lyrical. It comes off I don't know. I think it's not hard to say. So I saw an interesting conversation yesterday, from some of the talking heads that were at the election night parties, some of the political correspondents. And one person, I forgot the actual wording he used, but he was basically, I think the word was dispronounced, right? He was like, and I don't, is this even a real word or just one that is like pronounced? I didn't even look it up. I just thought it was interesting. So he was calling it dispronounced, right? So, which is not an actual word, but he was like, yes, like it is a name that is not like, it doesn't sound like American, obviously, whatever that means in quotes. And so, people mispronounce it. Right. So he's like, if you're mispronouncing it because you're just genuinely made a mistake, that's fine. But he's like, what a lot of people are doing in the political sphere is something he called dispronouncing, where they are saying it and making it sound more, quote, ethnic or, quote, foreign on purpose to kind of fearmonger. And I thought that was such a beautiful, succinct way to explain exactly what people like Andrew Cuomo, were doing. Do I think Andrew Cuomo's kind of a fucking idiot? Yes, I honestly do. But obviously he's gotten this far. He was the governor. He's given speeches. He has advisors. He has millions of dollars in his campaign. If you wanted to take 2 seconds, and learn how to pronounce someone's name that is his number one competitor, then he would have been able to do it. Like if you have time to subpoena someone's gynecological records, you have time to learn a name that is not that hard. Really pretty musical. It's a pretty musical name, Or another thing that I saw people doing is they would, even though Zohran doesn't shy away from using his middle name, which is Kwame, like people would like add it and like to his name to make it seem like scarier, like, oh, he has an African middle name. It's just a kind of like racism that literally makes you like want to cover your face because you're so embarrassed for the person who is spreading it. Again, if you had an actual real criticism, if as I have had about policies or things that you're concerned about, that is fine. But if you're just going with like posting a picture of Zohran next to the Twin Towers for 9/11, I'm gonna need you to sit the F down, okay? Just because it's hack. Just because the comedian in me goes, that is the hackish. Like, I was actually like stunned that we went there. Anyway, that was like, I just thought that was a very interesting, the dispronounced. I thought, perfect way of describing that. Okay. Yes.
I do agree with you on the. I agree with you on the dispronunciation. I think that is 100% like an attack they are using.
It's childish.
I don't think the 9/11 stuff was out of left field after he posed for a picture with someone who was complicit in the 9/11. But you know what I mean? That was what I read into when I saw that.
Write me an intelligent op-ed. Don't make a fucking meme of Twin Towers next to Zohran. Like, present something, because even like one big thing that everyone was really diving into was his rap as Mr. Cardamom when he said, shout out to the Holy Land 5, look them up. I did look them up, and I know that there were, supposedly like funneling money to Hamas. Like, there is actually like no proof I could find of this. Like, the research I did into the Holy Land 5 like came up pretty clean for me. I'm not saying I'm gonna go to the Holy Land 5 fundraiser. I'm not saying I'm gonna wear a hat that says Holy Land 5, but I actually saw nothing wrong with that. Like, it wasn't alarming to me with the research I did. And I spent a lot of time looking it up, and I was like, this is kind of inconclusive, basically. Like, I just didn't see anything. I looked into everything. Every time something came up, I said, okay, I don't know. And it's like, do I think all of the candidates have certain groups of people they don't love behind closed doors? Yeah, they're human beings. Obviously, they do. But what you should do if you are a good and fair leader is you have those inappropriate, conversations with your wife at home, and then you serve the people equally when you're in, it's like, that's what you do. Do we know that I, Corinne Fisher, former mayoral candidate, favor women over men? Yes, I haven't hidden it. Would I do anything in my policy to create an unjust society for men? No, because I'm not, I'm not crazy. I was like, well, personally, I was like, some exes might describe me as such, but I was like, I'm really not. Like, I truly love being fair, And again, as I said, Zohran, like me, is a Libra. One of the most positive things I can think of. When you're looking at leaders, if I could pick one astrological sign that I think would truly be the fairest leader, it is Libra. That's the sign. I don't know what his rising is. I don't know what the other things that are going on there. If you guys want to, if any astrologers and I are listening, and that's a crazy question because it's my show, so I know you are, send it in, or I'll ask Aliza Kelly or something, because she's been, doing a lot of that. But that's my thought. All right. So congratulations to Zohran and to his entire campaign team, which I think is really important, because this was not one alone, for one of the most impressive campaigns the Democratic Party has seen in modern times. Truly. Hats off. Extremely well executed, and it was such a team effort, which is why I find the campaign a little bit frustrating, because it's everyone is just making Zohran into a messiah, and I'm like, this is a real team effort. If you love socialism so much, please recognize this is not one man. He is the vessel by which these views of the DSA are being spread, but it takes a village, baby. And I think Zohran actually has been pretty good when he speaks about crediting everyone, about reminding everyone that it is a team effort. I would argue it's his followers who are acting like it is him, he is the Messiah. And the same as I tell you to get out of that mindset with anyone, including me, if you agree with everything I say, if you love, I always say take a break from the show if you find yourself agreeing with everything I say. But keep your Patreon subscription, please. I think the same thing of this. We just because it's a blue party doesn't mean it can't have that MAGA-like cult-like mentality. And in many ways, I do think this campaign turned into liberal MAGA. But I also think it was crafted to be, right? We talked a lot on this show about the success of the MAGA campaign. And, instead of just saying Donald Trump's not my president and he's a fascist, well, yes, okay, all these things are true, perhaps. Well, I mean, he is your president, but you don't want him to be. How about instead of just, being reactive, we actually take in some of the lessons we learned from the success of Donald Trump's now 2-term campaign, hopefully not 3-term, and let's take some information from what we learned about what voters respond to and use that in positive ways that don't involve, shipping immigrants away. So yeah, that. And so congratulations. And now it is our job, as people who voted for him, or as people watching who didn't vote for him but supported him, because he has a ton of followers on Instagram, to continue to support his efforts so that the ideas he ran on can actually become realities. As I spoke about during my mayoral campaign, outside of the New York public school system and the NYPD, the mayor of New York City doesn't actually have that much standalone power. The mayor of New York City's power lies in his, or her, hopefully one day, ability to mobilize people so that the governor and Albany can't say no. The mayor of New York City needs star power. In that way, Zohran Mamdani is actually exactly the kind of person I believe NYC needed. And although we have many different ideas on what to do with the city's budget, the general mood of both of our campaigns shared the thought that if we actually attempted to make things better and take care of everyday people, maybe people would show up to the polls. right? Zohran wants to tax the rich to fund services for the working class, which is a key DSA concept. Kathy Hochul says she won't do it because she doesn't want businesses to leave New York City. But seeing as Zohran currently is the talk of the entire country and has gone from 40,000 Instagram followers to a whopping, last time I checked a couple hours ago, 6.6 million followers. I think that if she's going to have to, if she wants to continue a career in politics, I think she's going to have to. This is a huge win for the Democratic Party right now, but the Democratic Socialists of America are developing candidates and crafting campaigns like this all over the country with its approximate 80,000 members, give or take, but that's what they're saying publicly right now. They have about 80,000 members. I predict that the DSA is planning enough wins to branch off into a third major political party. That's what I see happening. That's what I think their ultimate goal is. Haven't heard this from anyone. This is my own assessment. I think they want to ultimately have their own ballot line, right? Zohran Mamdani is their major success story, apart from AOC, but this one is like has their stamp on it more openly. We weren't as familiar with the template when AOC is running, which is why it appeared that she came out of nowhere. She did not. She was, a developed candidate. But Zohran is more transparently so one, right? And all the DSA's campaigns are not successes. They actually had mostly failures last night, including some races that I had been watching. Omar Fateh for Minneapolis mayor. Sorry, I might have mispronounced that. I just read all this stuff. And then Musab Ali from Jersey City, who I don't think is officially DSA, but he is endorsed by many of the DSA elected officials that we have sitting, and he has the framework of a DSA platform. So I feel like even if he's not officially, he's pretty much adjacent, right? And I would also say, for those of you who are scared to have a Muslim mayor, that's racist. But also to take that, if you actually have some kind of fear or something, a lot of racism is built upon fear that, maybe is misinformed, right? So let's take it seriously. But a person's religion, shouldn't be affecting policy or decisions, right? So just the same as we need to keep our eyes on Christian nationalists, if we start to see Zohran's religion affecting the policy or the laws out of New York City outside of just, hey, let's treat Muslims with equality, then yes, of course that falls under, separation of church and state and going against that. And then we do say something. But until then, it just shouldn't matter what religion someone is. And I was thinking about this. I was going through all the religions. And then I was like, well, unless it's Scientology, because honestly, we just can't have elected officials who are literally in a cult. And then I wrote Q Mike calling everyone associated with AIPAC in a cult. So I just filled that in right for you. And, I also see people online saying,
cults take money. AIPAC's giving it out.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm saying, elected officials who take money from AIPAC, those would be the cult members.
Yeah, there
you go. And for those of you questioning, how Zohran even got elected, what qualifications do you need? As I said, when people ask the same question of me, you need to understand the place you want to represent and have a plan to make it better. After that, the people decide who is or isn't qualified to represent them. And I think the people of New York City spoke pretty loudly last night. It was not even close. Everyone was worried, is Cuomo going to win? I go, there have been no polls since Zohran won the primary that put Cuomo in the lead. People were trying to do all kinds of maths. Every math they did, even the math that they did if Curtis Sliwa had dropped out, people were going, flipping out on Curtis Sliwa last night. Leave Curtis Sliwa alone. Even if he had dropped out, Andrew Cuomo would not have won this election. Look at the numbers. Curtis Sliwa did not get enough votes. It just wasn't happening. I knew once Zohran won the primary, I knew he was mayor of New York City. I told everyone this. They were encouraging people, they kept saying online it's not in the bag because they wanted to win by over 50% is my assessment of the situation. They wanted to win by the healthiest margin possible. And that's the way the whole campaign has been, right? That's why they got 30,000 petition signatures when they needed way less than that. They maxed out on their fundraising. Like, they did everything as big as possible to make a freaking statement. And the statement was made, okay? Heard, And so that's my thoughts on that specific race. But, for those of you, I know the world was watching this, I don't know. I saw people in Australia and England and Canada and stuff watching this race, which is really cool. Please take this enthusiasm and make sure you know who your mayor is. Make sure you know what your mayor is up to. I understand your mayor might not have as much power as the mayor of New York City. But, that's great because that means even easier to stop your mayor if your mayor is doing corrupt shit, right? This should be empowering. Municipal politics should make you feel empowered. You shouldn't not even pay attention to municipal politics and move right to presidential politics, because that's where you're really gonna, if you feel like, I'm not making an impact. Yeah, you're making a lot less of an impact when you're only dealing with national politics. So know who your congressperson is. Know who your mayor is. Maybe know, who represents you in city council in your district. These are people who you actually have their ear. They need to listen to you because they actually however many, voters are in your district, say, but winning and losing is going to be like 10,000 votes for them. When you're one of 10,000, that person's going to really hear you out because you're one of 10,000, but you have X amount of friends and family members who might also live in your district. Like, that is power. Again, if you are concerned about things that are happening, hit it at the local level, baby. In New York, we also successfully voted no on ballot proposal 6, which would have changed local elections to presidential years. I am over the moon about that. I thought that was a terrible idea. Again, as I said in my Instagram stories, a campaign like Zohran Mamdani's could not have coexisted in a year, in my opinion, that a presidential race was happening. We don't have the attention span as humans. And so if we want to continue to get good, energized candidates at a local level that will then move up to bigger and better things, hopefully, because hopefully he'll do a good job as mayor, then this is what we need to be doing. We need to be concentrating on municipal elections during, off years of presidential elections. That's my thought. I know some people, some Democrats disagreed. I gotta be honest, I'll fight you on that one. I'm really steadfast about that. And then congratulations to the Democratic Party in general for last night's clean sweep of all the must-win elections and decisions around the country, including Governor-elect Mikie Sherrill in New Jersey, who beat the human sausage and pepper sandwich that is Jack Ciattarelli. I could say that. I'm Italian, and I'm from New Jersey. Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, who flipped that state blue. Hell yeah. Mayor-elect Mary Sheffield, who will become Detroit's first female mayor. Also, she was born in 1987, so she's 38 years old. And California's Prop 50. So all the things that people needed to show up and do, the things that I think really are going to set the tone for the midterms and everything, we got it all done, right? So now what we need to do is not rest on our laurels. What we need to do now is not start having conversations and arguments about fucking minutia, okay? Stay on the task. Stay on the task. That's what we need to do. As a reminder, I wanted to go over what Prop 50 was because, of course, the Republicans this morning, ballot, the voting centers were barely closed and Republicans were already filing lawsuits against Prop 50. But just as a reminder, if you're not a Californian or if you're just a Californian who didn't know what was happening, What is Proposition 50? This is from CaliforniaDems.org, cadem.org. Since day one, Californians have been on the front lines of protecting our communities under attack by the Trump administration and his MAGA Republicans. With Proposition 50, California voters have the opportunity to fight back against the Republican cuts to healthcare, the rising costs of living under tariffs, and the cruel abductions and forced removals of immigrants. Proposition 50 is a direct response to a Republican power grab orchestrated by President Trump and state leaders in Texas who redrew congressional district lines to gain 5 more seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. Proposition 50 proposes new lines for many of California's 52 congressional districts, which would negate the 5 Republican seats drawn by Texas. Under the proposed lines, Democrats could gain up to 5 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. With a majority in the House, Democrats can fight back against Trump and Republicans' MAGA agenda. The proposition includes several key provisions and will be placed on the ballot through a special election on November 4th. Proposition 50 already happened. They won, but what it said was it levels the playing field. Prop 50 makes sure that the 2026 midterm elections are conducted on a level playing field without an unfair advantage for Republicans. It commits to fair redistricting. Prop 50 reaffirms California's commitment to independent redistricting and calls for a nationwide commitment to fair and impartial maps. It gives voters the power. Prop 50 puts the power in the hands of the people of California, not backroom politicians, to approve emergency congressional district maps in response to Trump's election rigging scheme. It is fair and proportional. Prop 50 provides emergency maps only because Republicans moved forward with their power grab and is temporary. These maps expire in the year 2030. Prop 50 preserves California's award-winning redistricting reforms and reaffirms the California Citizens Redistricting Commission's authority to draw congressional districts after the next census. This is all very confusing. If you are a socialist, you know that one of the tenets of socialism is that you guys just want to do popular vote, and so you wouldn't have all this crazy nonsense for a lot of things. So yeah, but you know, keeping us confused is how they keep us controlled. You know, and of course, as I said, Republicans have already tried to stop this. New York Times, you know, immediately this morning posting an article that said Republicans swiftly file lawsuit in bid to block California's new House maps. Republicans asked a federal court to block newly approved maps in California that were designed to flip as many as 5 House seats for Democrats. This is by Laurel Rosenhall, reporting from Sacramento. Hours after California voters approved a redistricting measure that would flip as many as 5 House seats for Democrats next year, California Republicans filed a lawsuit on Wednesday morning this morning challenging the new maps. The suit, filed in the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California, argues that the new maps are unconstitutional because they improperly use voters' race as a factor in drawing districts and asks the court to block them for taking effect. I mean, pause for laughter. Who the fuck likes to weaponize race more than Republicans? But okay. The lawsuit came the morning after California voters approved the redistricting measure, Proposition 50, which Governor Gavin Newsom pushed to retaliate against gerrymandering that leaders in Texas and other Republican-led states approved at the request of President Trump. It is not clear how successful the latest challenge will be. California Republicans were unsuccessful earlier this year at preventing the ballot measure through litigation, and Democrats have expressed confidence that their new maps will withstand legal scrutiny. Proposition 50 suspended maps drawn by an independent commission and installed new congressional districts that were designed to help Democrats pick up 5 seats now held by Republicans. It was the most significant counterpunch by Democrats in a redistricting war that has swept the nation and upended political norms as Mr. Trump tries to keep the House of Representatives under Republican control. The Republican lawsuit challenging Proposition 50 is hardly isolated. Since July, at least 17 redistricting cases have been filed, including 6 in Texas and 2 in North Carolina, said Kareem Creighton, a vice president with the Brennan Center for Justice, which has been tracking redistricting litigation. In Missouri, for instance, 4 groups have filed lawsuits contending that the state constitution prohibits mid-decade redistricting, among other reasons. The California lawsuit is being funded by the National Republican Congressional Committee. It was filed by the law firm founded by Harmeet K. Dillon, a longtime Republican activist who was appointed by Mr. Trump to run the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department. Ms. Dillon left the Dillon Law Group when she was confirmed in April, according to the firm's website. Mr. Newsom said during the campaign that he was confident that California's new maps would pass legal muster. We haven't reviewed the lawsuit, but if it's from the California Republican Party and Harmeet Dillon's law firm, it's going to fail, Mr. Newsom's press office said on Wednesday on X. The lawsuit did not come as a surprise. Opponents of Mr. Newsom's plan had filed unsuccessful lawsuits in August in an attempt to keep the issue off the ballot and later vowed to challenge the maps again if they were approved by voters. President Trump, in a social media post, indicated on Tuesday that Republicans were going to challenge the results in court. Mr. Trump often discredits election results he does not like, and he said, without evidence, that the California ballot measure was rigged and that the mail ballot system was under very serious legal and criminal review. Mr. Newsom responded later that Mr. Trump's post was a sign that he knew he was losing and that Californians needed to stand up to the president and his authoritarianism. Got it out. Against the backdrop of the new Republican lawsuit is a case before the Supreme Court that could limit a state's ability to use race as a factor in drawing political maps. The case, Louisiana v. Calais, examines whether Louisiana lawmakers violated the Constitution by drawing a map that created 2 majority black congressional districts. A dozen white voters sued, arguing that the map was an illegal racial gerrymander that discriminated against them because of their race. In arguments before the court last month, justices in the conservative majority appeared likely to rule for the plaintiffs and weaken a provision of the Voting Rights Act that has for decades allowed using race as a factor in drawing political maps to help minority voters elect the candidates of their choice, which we've talked about on the show a lot. The lawsuit filed on Wednesday accuses California of violating the Constitution when it drew new congressional district lines based on race, specifically to favor Hispanic voters without cause or evidence to justify it. The lawsuit points to statements made by Democratic state lawmakers and a map-making consultant this year in which they referred to having intentionally drawn some districts with Latino majorities. And just I want to pause and stop to say, if you are a member of a minority group, and this includes Latinos, Black people, Asian people, women, any of these groups that, and especially like Latino and Black people, I would say any of these groups that the Democrats and the Republicans love to use as pawns when it's election season and then forget about other times. Please, make sure that you are holding your elected representatives accountable. When you show up to vote for them, please make sure that if there is a certain need that your community has, meaning your community of Latino people, your community of Black people, please fucking make sure that these people are showing up for you. Okay? Because they definitely target basically groups when they need your vote. So don't let them forget about you and only remember when it's election time. That's my plea to you as constituents. These arguments are not frivolous, but they are not going to be easy, and the timing is going to present a major challenge. And that also goes for women when it comes to the Democratic Party. These people, make sure these people are showing up for you, your rights, your health care, supporting, paid parental leave, that kind of thing. a law professor at the University of California, Los Angeles. The case is likely to hinge on whether race or partisanship was the predominant factor in drawing the new maps. A Supreme Court ruling in 2019 established that federal courts are powerless to hear claims about partisan gerrymandering, essentially allowing lawmakers to carve up districts for political gain. It's a chess game. So California could argue that the maps were a raw political play, crafted explicitly to help Democrats even the score against similarly partisan maps in Republican-led states. Michael Colombo, a lawyer for the plaintiffs, said that the case would show that race was a predominant factor in drawing the new maps, even though Democrats said their main goal was to flip 5 seats for Democrats. Okay, that was the goal, but how are you doing it? What's the road to the goal? Obviously, it's weaponizing races. It's using different race groups as pawns. That's what you always do. And it's like a strategy. I get it, but fucking just make sure you're showing up for these groups of people, not just when you need them. Which you should be doing anyway, because like if you're selling us on equality, well, that's not hard then. Seems hard with how little it's done, but it really shouldn't be hard. There was a lot of rhetoric and maybe even an effect, but within that, we have clear statements that establish that there was racial gerrymandering going on, Mr. Colombo said at a news conference on Wednesday. An analysis by the nonpartisan Public Policy Institute of California found that the maps approved under Proposition 50 had the same number of majority-minority districts as the prior congressional maps that were created by the state's independent redistricting commission, which considered race among various factors. Both plans created 16 majority Latino districts, the analysis found. It is not clear whether a Supreme Court decision, if it voids the use of race as a factor in map making, would occur early enough to have an effect on the 2026 midterms. California Republicans said on Wednesday that their lawsuit did not hinge on the Louisiana case and that they were seeking a federal court injunction by December. They said that candidates needed to know their district boundaries so that they could file papers to run in the primary election. Nonetheless, one Republican incumbent, Representative Ken Calvert, announced Wednesday morning that he was already switching to one of the redrawn districts to run against a colleague, Representative Young Kim, in her safe Republican seat. Nice. Nicholas Stephanopoulos, a law professor at Harvard, said he thought it was unlikely the courts would act on the case early enough to change the course of California's primary election in June 2026. A big procedural problem for this lawsuit is that legislatures and elected officials are allowed to make late changes to district lines, but the Supreme Court has been really stringent in saying that courts can't do anything close to an election. If the Supreme Court strikes down the Voting Rights Act provision that has required drawing districts for voters of color where they can make up the majority, Democrats would have bigger problems nationwide beyond California's new maps or its old maps. All right. Sick. Now we understand all of that. Let's do the enemy of the state. And then I do want to hear what you had been holding. Mike had something that he wanted to share with me on air. And so let's do that after the enemy of the state. Okay. All right. So this week's enemy of the state is the New York Post.
Enemy of the state.
Listen, the New York Post stays posted. You know, I have a big gripe with the New York Post after they posted as a fucking front page story the picture of the guy who was about to get struck and killed by the subway train. We know since then I have never forgiven the New York Post. Do I read it? Yes, because other people read it. I think it is a source that people actually use in New York City. But the Post be posting, okay? And that is bad. Okay, if you live in New York, you know, you understand. The New York Post is like one, it's not as bad as Fox News. And again, they're doing that thing where they're like reporting and they're making it really, really accessible. Small language, short articles. We don't love their covers. And yet, I can't believe I didn't see this coming. It's actually, it actually could be worse, which is crazy for me to say. Like, I'm surprised they didn't have Zohran, riding a camel through the streets of, through the cartoon streets of Aladdin, even though these are, you're just mixing a bunch of stuff together because people don't know the difference because they go, that's just, all the same type of person because they're racist, crazy people. So it's not as bad as it could have been, I suppose. But of course they had some crazy ass cover. It's just, it says on your marks, spelled like Marxism, MARX, get set Zo, as in Zohran. Socialist Mamdani wins race for mayor. And then it has it says the red apple trying to create the red scare again. Cartoon of him, if you have it on the screen here. I mean, I don't know. Like, I understand, like, we want to sell newspapers, and they did a great job because this sold out. This is already on eBay. That's what I'm going to get into in this article. And so, I guess, again, we all got to make our last swings at capitalism, make that money, right? But just like, I don't know what I want it to be. If I if I was running the New York Post, maybe I would have been like, let's see how he does. But I don't think that would sell a lot of newspapers. But again, that's why Corinne Fisher, I'm not a newspaper mogul, because my headline, like, if I was running a paper that was like targeted against Zohran, which I wouldn't be, I would have been like, maybe let's just give him a try. Like, maybe he's the mayor. Maybe let's actually try to see if, like, things could be more affordable for everyone, because that actually sounds like a fine idea. I don't know. And obviously it's a right leaning, but it's like if we're just gonna if you wanted Andrew Cuomo to win, Andrew Cuomo should have ran a better campaign. Andrew Cuomo's campaign was stinky poo poo. It was terrible. It was phoned in. Like, bare minimum, the person running for mayor should seem like they actually want to be mayor. Bare minimum. For all we can say about Hillary Clinton, all the negative things that people like to say about Hillary Clinton, that woman really wanted to be president, and she made it known, okay? Andrew Cuomo didn't even so much as seem like the biggest thing he did was move into his daughter's apartment. I feel like that was the biggest thing he did to make us know that he wanted to be mayor. And then after that, it was just so mediocre. It was lower than mediocre. So this article says New York Post's cover on Zohran Mamdani election sold out in New York City and already being resold on eBay. And now I feel dumb for not picking up a copy myself, right? I'm from a collector family. I love it. I don't want this in my home. Like, I know some people who voted for Zohran like think it's like are hanging it up in their apartments like humorously. Like, I don't even want this garbage in my apartment. Like, I really don't. It says even the lefties love it. The Post's November 5th front page featuring Mayor-elect Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani has gone the way of capitalism, selling out on newsstands in the Big Apple and even being auctioned off on eBay for more than $350 a pop. The red-hot issue reporting Mamdani's election day victory was the talk of the town Wednesday and flew off the shelves before many New Yorkers could get their hands on one. The artwork is genius. It's a shock factor, Mamdani voter Ben D told the Post about the cover featuring a Soviet-style sketch of Mamdani carrying a hammer and sickle alongside the headline, The Red Apple. Ben, 24, and his 28-year-old pal Joaquin R. raced around Brooklyn to about a dozen delis, but everywhere they went, it was already sold out. We love Zohran. I think it's a very important moment in our lives. It would have been amazing to have the paper to capture this moment in time, said Ben. I mean, also, I think if you want a nice cover, I think, like, isn't New York Magazine releasing a nice one? It's only going to be printed once. We've been to at least 10 delis and we will go to more, Ben said, from Nassau Finest Deli in Greenpoint. The deli opened at 6 a.m. And now I want to know, like, are they keeping it for a keepsake, or are they, even though they voted for Zohran, trying to capitalize off of it financially? I would love to know. The deli opened at 6 a.m. and within an hour had already sold all their copies of the Post, according to worker Aaron Saleh. Saleh, 33, said his phone has been ringing off the hook all day with callers asking if they had any more copies of the Post, and customers also traveled from Bushwick and Long Island City. We sold all the papers we had. There were like 100 people in here today asking for it. About 30 people called asking if we had it. I guess print is not dead. You know what? Maybe I got to flip the New York Post because we need to support print. So maybe New York Post actually is the angel of the week. Yes.
I live right around the corner from the New York Times building.
Oh yeah.
And a buddy of mine was sitting in the passenger seat the other day, and he goes, Who in God's name needs that big of a building to make newspapers in 2025?
Yeah.
Like, it is cartoonish to look at a newspaper factory in today's day and age. So yeah, God bless the Post for getting it done.
Yeah. So I'm like, that in that way they really did something there. A similar scene played out in City Fresh Market in Astoria as customers wiped out their supply of posts as other newspapers remained untouched. People come in, they will look through the pile. When they see that there is no more of the New York Post, they just leave, a worker said. A woman, Sharon, walked into City Fresh Market Wednesday looking for the coveted cover. I went to 2 other delis before this, but they didn't have any either. The other ones, front covers, are boring, she said. All right. The demand. So I guess just make a racist cover if you want to sell newspapers. It's not, this one's like not racist. It's fear mongering. But the demand was so high at one Bedford. And, maybe the New York Post know that. Maybe they know if we do racist, the lefties aren't going to buy it. But if we do fear mongering, they will. I don't know. The demand was, what do I know? Maybe the New York Post is actually geniuses. The demand was so high at one Bedford Stuyvesant bodega that the store was forced to put up a no New York Post sign, according to a photo posted on X. And the buzz reached beyond the 5 boroughs. In Bergen County, New Jersey resident Chiquita Wilder said she visited 5 different stores before 10 a.m. Wednesday and still returned empty-handed. I should tell my mother to get one. I wonder what's happening over in Union, New Jersey. Wait. And so, and here's a tweet that says, not from Talia Jane, that says, not telling anyone to steal, but I have a sneaking suspicion that a lot more people are going to own a copy of today's New York Post than will be paying for said copy due to its need to frame thisness among people who do not want to give the New York Post their money. I mean, don't steal it, because then you're just going to be feeding into, you don't want to feed into fear mongering the day after the guy gets elected, right? Like when the conversation has been, these people who are voting for Zohran just want everything for free. We don't want to celebrate his victory and make it harder for him to achieve stuff by stealing copies of the New York Post. I understand you don't want to give the company money, but I gotta be honest, I don't think that's the vibe, okay? I don't think Zohran would say to do that. Maybe behind closed doors to his friend, but I don't think publicly he would say to do that. This is a good time capsule. A 24-year-old Mamdani voter said, I think that being able to get your hands on a copy of this issue is just a good thing to look back on in a couple of years, just to see how things have changed in this new era and being able to see how far either how we've come or how badly this whole operation has backfired. All right. It's also just plain funny, Wilder continued. I like seeing how ridiculous they are. Like, the thing is, it's like, sometimes like the New York Post does make me laugh, but like, I don't know. It's like, I guess it's like easier to laugh because we had such a wonderfully successful night last night. But like, a lot of times I'm just like, it's funny until you realize a lot of people just like earnestly believe and agree with these covers, right? A secondary market swiftly cropped up Wednesday where online resale prices of the iconic woods ballooned into the hundreds. One eBay seller auctioned off a copy for a whopping $355. Another eBay seller who has peddled other Post covers from the likes of Charlie Kirk's assassination to Trump's Yankees bid has already sold out of 24 copies priced at $14.25 each before 3 p.m. Wednesday afternoon. That's honestly like not that much of a jacked up price. I think if you're going to do all the work to get them, like that's not even that bad.
I mean, it's
completely against what Zohran stands for. So
talking a 700% markup in 4 hours
compared to 355. I think 1425 was manageable.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just saying, it's like, this is why we can't go to concerts anymore either, because of guys like this.
Oh, I agree, and it really is ironic that we've just voted for socialism and now we're doing this. Like, I mean, it really is. It's like, do you like socialism or do you not?
So
right?
Do you think it's...
So then I should have bought a bunch of copies and given them out for free. And I said, and then said, I really support Mamdani. I really should have done that.
Corinne
and I would have been
people.
fine to do that. I would have been fine to do that.
I'm just wondering, though, if it's a thing, like, is it the left that is buying these ironically, or is it like, Bill Ackman has 73 copies and they're like lining the walls of his place to be like, see what happens when you don't listen to Bill Ackman? I
mean, I'm sure it's a little bit of both, but I honestly feel like this is like very much like, it seems like very much young people doing it kind of like ironically, But readers still on the hunt need not fret the lack of issues available, as the New York Post store is selling the cover, which is kind of what I was thinking that they would do. I was like, they got to do it. So how much are they selling? So how much are they selling it for, Mike? I'm looking at it. Guess. I want you to guess how much the New York Post store is selling these copies for.
I mean, it's got to be $19.99. It's got to be more than what that guy was selling it on eBay for.
It's so much more than $19.99.
Whoa. Okay, but is it at least you're getting like a fat head? Like they're gonna blow it up like cartoonishly large so you can hang it in your house as art?
Oh, actually, I read the fine print. Okay, this is not as I thought it was criminal for a second. This is a 12 by 12 metal print.
There we go. Okay.
Imagine buying a metal print of this. Psychotic.
I kind of want to now.
I know what I'm getting you for Christmas. Is a dimensional and high quality piece of art that stands the test of time. I mean, if they missed an opportunity to say this piece of art would survive the 9/11. I mean, well, come on, hire me. There was a real space here. This is why you need comedy writers in all places. This is crazy. They said somehow aluminum melted when fire touched it during 9/11, but this won't. So anyway, it's aluminum though. So it's not, it is aluminum. It is aluminum. This is aluminum metal. Okay, anyway. So that's really funny. Opportunity missed. I'm disappointed in you, New York Post. It's while remaining easy to clean and care for. That is smart because it's hard to, you got to put if you're trying to save a newspaper, you got to put it in museum glass. You got to keep it out of the light. This is my whole life, guys. This is what it's like growing up with a dad who, has 50,000 memorabilia pieces and vintage posters from horror movies and stuff. So you've come to the right place. The artwork looks luminescent against the wall, and the metal base means it'll last a long time. Just like your dick as you're fucking a girl when you bring her home and you say, hey, look at my commemorative Zohran Mamdani mayor win New York Post metal cover. How much do you think this is now that you know it's a metal and a collector's piece?
It's got to be $150.
Less.
$100?
Less.
What?
75.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's a steal. Get two.
I wonder how much they're making, or if they're doing drop shipping and they're just going to make as many as people want. Really funny stuff. Okay, well, and then, or you can get a women's crop tee that says feral. I don't even know, what does that have to do with it? I don't even get these jokes. All right, but that's that. Good old New York Posty Post. Keeping an eye all the time. Okay. God. There's so much fun going on here. So much great times. Okay, Mike, what did you want to share with me?
Okay, so this was a truly disturbing conversation that I had with my mother-in-law on, I believe it was Saturday. Mm-hmm. She asked Alex, is she going to vote? And as I was going out I said, yeah, of course, we're both going to vote. We'll be there, with bells on Tuesday morning. And as I was going out the door to the car to grab something, I heard her say, like, make sure you vote for Cuomo. And I went, no, you cannot be serious. Like an actual MAGA, like dyed-in-the-wool Republican who believes in, like, this is the party of Reagan and Lincoln. You are going to go to the ballot box and cast your vote for that column of human sewage. Like, I went in on this woman. Like, I felt,
and I will have to say, I have to give you credit because you have been, this is aligned. Like, you had Lindsay Boylan on the other podcast that you produce. So I know people have been feeling a certain way about Mike the past couple of weeks in the YouTube comments. I do want to say he has been a big anti-Cuomo and sexual harassment, assault survivor advocate, with his producing during this campaign season.
I'm on record as saying it is on site with any member of the Cuomo family, dude. You see me, it's fisticuffs.
Michaela, who are the three girls? Michaela, I'm kept coming for all of them.
I don't know any of their names, but
you know they're about to start a podcast, all three of them, if they haven't already.
I saw one of them was like bragging about what a great campaign she ran. She was like really going. I mean, come within whatever it was, 16 points of winning, or 8 points
on name recognition only. If he had actually even tried, maybe the number would be higher. There was no campaign. The campaign was, hey, remember me? I'm Andrew Cuomo. That was the campaign. That's crazy.
That's not true. I think the campaign was largely relying on Fox and a lot of conservative voices
and
to
fear-mongering,
go to bat for Andrew Cuomo, which every single time I heard it, it just made my stomach turn. And it really made me process like what a grip Fox News and the really 24/7 fear-mongering of the right can do to a person. When it's like, you were governed by Andrew Cuomo. You remember what that was like. This isn't like, they talk about tariffs being a thing that only happens once in a generation because it hurts the country so bad that no one alive who was alive for it the first time will ever vote for tariffs. Like, it's that same way with the Cuomo thing. Like, you lived under this.
I know a lot of people talking about 9/11 nonstop, but they are forgetting.
You're forgetful, right?
They're being you said never forget. You love 9/11. I've heard about 9/11 nonstop.
And it was a lot of the same discussion you and I had last week with that idea of like hold your nose and vote. And for them, like being anti-Zohran was like a whole. Voting for Cuomo was an acceptable hold your nose and vote choice.
Told you.
And you did tell me.
Told you.
And it felt like I was shot in the gut in the back of a cab by the Gambino crime family.
Call back.
That's what it felt like, dude. Because I'm sitting there
this is how much Mike doesn't like when I'm right.
I hate it because it's like there was just no way I could wrap my mind around somebody who lived through small businesses being shut down, who lived through being told that your places of worship were not allowed to be visited, that your old people were going to be killed left and right. You were not going to be able to see your family members for Christmas. Like, that's what this dude was the poster child of. And you're saying that somehow, despite his massive, massive government overreach, you thought he was a better and more stable candidate to deal with power in New York City, right? Then who knows? Who knows with this kid?
You would have hated how I would have handled COVID. I would have taped the door shut like they did in Asia. We would be done in a week. That was my plan. Done in a week, Corinne.
I mean, truly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I
just didn't see it.
Andrew Cuomo to me just read, like, I ran against the man, and I literally knew, like, he just read so Republican to me. Like, even though I had to constantly remind myself that he was running for a Democratic seat, because he just read, everything about him just read as Republican to me throughout this whole campaign.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
in a way that he didn't used to during COVID, I gotta be honest. Something changed.
When he was using the might of the government to break the will of the people, it didn't scream Republican to you? Shocking.
Well, I mean, I just, because like everyone, on both sides does bad things. It was just like, it just didn't. Yeah, I just felt like he is palatable enough for Republicans to vote for him.
Well, it's beyond palatable. It's like he had the same exact donor class, the same exact people who are funneling money into the media ecosystem via advertising or other means.
And was going to work with Trump.
And it's, exactly that, right? It's business as usual. It's let's keep this machine going and keep the establishment names who have been making money off the American people for the last 40 years in power. Mm-hmm. And Zohran, I mean, listen, Dave Smith, I think, had the best take, right? Republicans got their asses kicked last night. They got we're gonna get. I have several articles covering that topic. You talked about it already, like the way that this was sweepingly blue, and it was
a beautiful night. But we have, this was a win that we haven't seen a win like this in quite some time, and we have a lot of work to do.
But it's a thing where whatever party seems seems to be putting America first is the one that's winning, right? And despite the fact that Zohran came out and said, I'm talking to Mexican abuelas and Ugandan, immigrants, right? He talked to everybody, but didn't actually. A lot of Republicans were saying he mentioned 14 different countries. None of them were America during his victory speech. But he's speaking to Americans. They're people who live in New York City, which, like it or not, Arkansas is America, right?
Well, it also, it's just diversity is like, even when you look at the voter breakdown by percentage, there is no group that is overwhelmingly like the majority in New York City. Like, it really, when you say it, like New York City is diverse, like even look at the numbers, it really, really is. And so to have a mayor that is anything but absolutely pro-immigrant for New York City is just crazy. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, look, we just dealt with Adams, who was dealing with Abbott bussing people in. Right. So it's like we've always had very pro-immigration mayors until the immigrants from the border started showing up here, and then our mayor had to be like, "Hey, we don't have the infrastructure for this." So which
was fair.
And so I don't know how quote unquote pro-immigration we can be if that's going to be the tactic that other states take with us. But
to me, it's more like at this point, it's like we're fighting back against ICE. Number one, you're not having what's happening in Chicago start happening in New York City, and I think New Yorkers really got out in the streets in a way that Chicago didn't when that started happening downtown. I was actually out of the country when that was going down. And then also just treating people with equality, like no matter what group they're from.
True. It's just that, literally this time last year, we're talking election night 2024, Donald Trump's approval rating, both politically and personally, had never been higher. Mm-hmm. And now, a year into his presidency, he gets his ass kicked like this. It's like, how did you
that's what we
fumble
learned.
The bag?
That's what that was kind of like one of the inspirational takeaways from Mamdani's campaign is look how much can happen in a year. So even if you're not into politics, even though everything is political, just let this be a lesson to you. Your entire life can change in a calendar year. Your entire life can change. Zohran's entire life changed in 1 year. That's inspiring.
So I think it's just a thing where it's like, if you are a politician from here on out, your messaging needs to, I've watched the Trump family take that 100% approval rating and do nothing but enrich themselves, sure. Bail out Argentina,
correct.
Spend a ton more money on foreign wars that he promised he was going to end on day one.
Yeah,
Of course your approval rating's in the toilet and you're getting your ass kicked like this.
Yeah. Government's been shut down longer than it ever has.
If you start putting whatever party, it could be DSA, could be the Republicans, could be the Democrats. Whichever one starts talking about putting Americans first is going to be the party that I think is going to get people out. Because at this point, identity politics isn't working. Fear-mongering is not working. The only thing that's working is speaking to the needs of the American people.
Yeah. I think identity politics still worked a little bit in this campaign. I think, as much as Zohran liked to, sometimes say that being Muslim was, being used against him, it was, but it was being used against him by people who weren't going to vote for him no matter what he was. So to me, that was a moot point. I think that being a person of color was helpful for this campaign, for sure. I think that was what was needed for this role. It's just what the Dems are kind of especially in a place like New York City, are looking for right now. And again, similar template to AOC, young, attractive, person of color. It makes sense. It makes sense. And then you go, that's why Bernie didn't, he's a senator, but he didn't, go as far as he needed to.
Well,
that was different though. He was running for president.
No, that's not the reason why he didn't go far.
I know I can't get into this right now. That's your theory. Yes.
No, it's not my theory. It's that the Democrat, it's not even Hillary. It's that the Democratic Party as a whole use their might to block Bernie. They did the same thing in 2020.
I also think that Bernie bros, it was just he needed to, Bernie needed to appeal to women a little bit more. That was my criticism of him. I think he just needed to, Bernie bros were unappealing to female voters.
Nothing was going to save him. Literally, it didn't matter if he appealed to literally 100% of Americans. As soon as the Democratic Party said you are not going to be the nominee, there was no chance.
Listen, I think it all worked out for Bernie. Everyone who ends up being president ends up being disliked. So I think Bernie right now, the way he is, he can die being like a savior, an amazing folklore. Just like he's like a folk hero, and I think that's like he can retain that for his entire career in in a way that he wouldn't have been able to had he been president.
He's my front runner for vice president in 2028.
I think he's too old.
An AOC Bernie ticket?
I mean, the ticket's nice, but I think he's too old to be. He's like 80 something, isn't he?
So?
I just think that's too old.
The guy ran, did he not run in the last?
He's 84.
Okay.
I think that's too old.
We've all agreed vice president is barely a job.
I know. That's why when everyone was coming after Kamala, and they're like, "Why didn't you do anything about this?" I go, "Oh, you guys don't understand. The vice president doesn't have any power. They're just literally sitting there. It's like asking an understudy in a play, why didn't they say any lines? Their literal only job is to step in if the fucking president gets assassinated. Stop pretending the vice president's actually doing stuff or has a say or can veto the things that the president are saying. It's just not a thing. And I mean, if you want to, maybe it would be cool. And again, would be a vice president would become a hero if they did that. And so I don't want to say nothing is possible because if you are a sitting vice president and the president starts doing something that you think is completely unethical, try fighting against them and let's see what happens. I hope that your brains don't end up on the Great Lawn. I don't know. Let's see. Go for it. I would try it. Maybe because I'm bored. I don't have a job. I'm the vice president. All right. Thank you so much. All hail to, speaking of authoritarianism, all hail to our dictator, Christopher Fungi, our capitalist pigs and our cuties. Thank you so much. I was thinking of you guys a lot over the past 24 hours. I'm always thinking about you, but I'm thinking about you extra. Really just thank you so much for helping to fund this show, to make this show possible. I've been trying, I want to fund a lot of projects and stuff that I want to do. And, it is not advised by my accountant, but I do like to pay for these, endeavors myself, running for mayor, etc. Well, I mean, I maxed out what I could pay for myself, legally. And, just thank you so much for, wanting to be involved. And I know, that we usually have time or money to give, sometimes neither in our lives. And so thank you for spending your money, on my Patreon. And I think that is definitely a way that if you feel helpless, funding independent shows like this is a way that you are being politically involved. So again, so many people are I don't know what to do. Little things like this really do make a big difference, I think. And if you want to contribute to this show for as little as $6 a month, head over to patreon.com/withoutacountry. Thank you so much. You'll get an exclusive video news story, in addition to this free show every single week. All right, let's move on to a Cuties Corner. This is from Wacko Kristen. Thank you for sending this to me. This is about rescuing chickens and getting in severe trouble for it. I had seen a video about this, and then I think I got distracted by the mayoral race and other big races happening. But this is great, and I did want to talk about it because this was so crazy. So I appreciate you emailing this to me. This is a story about a woman in California named Zoe Rosenberg, who was found guilty of felony conspiracy and 3 misdemeanors for rescuing 4 sick chickens from Perdue's Petaluma Poultry Slaughterhouse. She is at risk of spending 4.5 years in jail for this. And the writer says that the trial was extremely corrupt. She was unable to present any of the true and damning evidence against the slaughterhouse. If you want to follow her story on Instagram, you can follow her at Zoe, ZOE_rooster. And let's get into this. And then she wrote an article about what went on, and I'm going to share it with you. It's not that long. And I guess this is kind of this is from commondreams.org, which is an animal welfare Let me see. I don't know what Common Dreams is. Let me look this up real quick. I didn't know if it was like Medium where you can just like submit your own article, or what is this? Okay, so Common Dreams, actually, I'm surprised I haven't heard of it because it's just apparently a breaking news and views for progressive people. That's a progressive community news source since 1997, independent nonprofit, advertising free. All right. So again, this is by Zoe Rosenberg, the person who risks the 4.5 years in jail. She says, I rescued 4 chickens from abuse. Now I'm the one facing a felony trial. I refuse to accept that helping a few baby birds makes me a criminal, let alone a dangerous one. And anyone who's even at all, a little bit familiar with animal welfare knows that, like, yeah, when out in most courts of law, although some courts are now changing this, animals are considered property, right? And so taking them would technically be stealing. And I'm sure there's like breaking and entering and stuff too. So like, do I look at her as a criminal? No, but if I am a judge going purely by the law, unbiased with my views about animal welfare, then like, yeah, technically you are a criminal. But sometimes, you need to commit crimes, I guess, to get what's done, to get what needs to be done. Dare I say, she's animals Luigi, I guess. I don't agree with Luigi murdering, but I know most of my fans do. As I write this, a GPS ankle monitor shows law enforcement exactly where I am. This invasive device has been strapped to my leg for nearly 2 years. It has come with me to family dinners, to doctor's appointments, to university classes, and more. I have been forced to wear it in order to remain free pending a criminal trial, which begins next week. I face nearly half a decade in jail. Yeah, but like, wear it like a badge of honor. You shouldn't, but have to go to jail. But I hear you. And so this is what she's already been. I guess we're still waiting how long she's actually going to have to go to jail. But this was written on September 9th, 2025, just so we know. So it's a little old. My trial is expected to last several weeks, though there is no doubt that I did what prosecutors say. My alleged crime: taking less than $25 worth of chicken. This wouldn't normally lead to felony charges or a government monitored GPS tracking device, but you see, the 4 chickens I took were alive. In the city of Petaluma, about an hour north of San Francisco, nestled between a Subway and a Starbucks, lies a heavily guarded fortress. Nearly every night of the week, more than 40,000 live birds are driven through its gates. In the mornings, their deceased and dismembered bodies are wrapped in plastic, decorated with claims about sustainability, animal welfare, and a lack of antibiotics. Finally, they're stamped with the brand names Rocky the Free Range Chicken and Rosie the Organic Chicken. Crazy to name them. By the time their bodies re-enter the outside world, shipped to grocery stores like Safeway and Trader Joe's, the birds have been thoroughly objectified, their suffering repackaged as ethical consumption. This fortress is the Petaluma Poultry Slaughterhouse, a subsidiary of Perdue, one of the nation's largest poultry producers. In important ways, Perdue's Petaluma Poultry represents the worst of animal agriculture. Its branding is frighteningly deceptive. The company, a master of manipulative marketing, Petaluma Poultry touts the supposed luxuries its chickens enjoy. And let me just stop here and say, I used to have a joke about this. It was based on similar language used by Chipotle. And people really fought back against this joke because it would have to make them confront the fact that they eat meat, right? But like, every time I would be eating at Chipotle, I would like read this bag with all the great things they do for animals. And the joke, I don't remember it word for word, but the joke was like, basically like, I think I compared it to like a serial killer being like, I give my victims a croissant and a cafe latte before I murder them. Like, it's like, at the end of the day, if what we're talking about, the living thing we're talking about, ends up dead, and it is not the assisted suicide pod that they asked for, that it's not good. You're not treating them well. If the thing we're talking about treating well ends up dead, you did not treat it well unless they asked to die. Okay, like this has blown my mind for years. Petaluma Poultry touts the supposed luxuries its chickens enjoy.
You ever read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
No, should I? I mean, obviously I know what it is.
There's like a very fun scene in the second book where a cow comes out to the table and he goes, "What slice of meat would you want from me?" And they're like, "This is horrifying." And he's like, "No, it's my dream to die for you to eat me." Like, that is how I've always wanted my beef intake to actually be, is like someone encouraging me that they are fulfilling their Valhalla-like destiny.
There you go.
To go and be my dinner.
Right. Like, unless we
ethical.
know that the chicken was suicidal and wanted to get out of the cruelties, which I would still push back and say, well, the chicken was suicidal because it's being treated badly in the Perdue facility. Just like all this is just like hogwash. And again, I know, some people like farmers and stuff, I respect your opinions. Like I really do. Like so many people have written me emails about like treating the cows nicely and stuff. And I go, listen, I'm not even saying, like, I still eat, chicken and turkey sometimes. Like I do. I'm very open about that. Beef and pork and lamb and all that kind of stuff I haven't eaten in years. But like, yeah, I'll have chicken sometimes. I hate it. Like actively I'm eating the chicken and I go, man, I'm a piece of shit, right? So there's really nothing you're going to do to convince me. But still, eat the chicken if you want to, posting seemingly staged videos of birds frolicking in the grass, while in reality, the birds live and die in factory farm conditions. Factory farming is widely known to be horrific, and companies like Petaluma Poultry represent a major obstacle to stopping it. They advertise animal suffering and slaughter as moral goods. I know how birds at Petaluma live and die because I have been inside its facilities. In 2023, as an investigator with Direct Action Everywhere, I entered multiple Petaluma Poultry facilities. On these factory farms, I found chickens crowded together in filthy barns. One facility had mortality rates more than double the industry standard. Birds were suffering from severe neglect and dying from blood infections caused by multi-drug resistant bacteria. An investigation of the slaughterhouse found similar trends. One night in April 2023, over 1,000 chickens from one shipment were condemned post-slaughter when workers opened them up and found their bodies full of infection. And again, to take it a step further and be super, dare I say, woo-woo about it, like if you believe that, living things that hold energy, right? Like, maybe one of the reasons our society is so filled with hate and not doing well is because we are consuming meat that was literally terrorized during its life. I'm sorry, it's very hard for me to read this article and not think about, do you want to talk about like generational trauma? When we talk about trauma, we want to talk about fear. Like, we're eating fear. Like, I just can't see how we're not. Since 1993, Perdue has claimed its chickens grow up healthy. Nothing could be further from the truth. Of the multiple facilities I've been inside, I haven't seen a single chicken I describe with such a word. Chickens in the meat industry are systemically unhealthy. They've been genetically manipulated to grow 3 times faster and larger than natural. Their legs collapse as they struggle to hold their own weight. Their hearts fail and their feet develop pressure sores. The poor health of the birds in Petaluma poultry facilities is exacerbated by their poor housing conditions and lack of medical care. Oh my God. Much of what I have documented at Petaluma Poultry's facilities is criminal animal cruelty in the state of California, which is like California. If this is happening to her in California, as we talk about, always on the cutting edge of animal rights and welfare. However, repeated reports to law enforcement over multiple years have not resulted in any enforcement. Haunted by the knowledge of the immense violence within, I entered Perdue's Petaluma Poultry Slaughterhouse on June 13th, 2023. Partially disguised as a worker, I stepped into the cool night and approached a truck stacked high with crates crammed full with baby chickens. I rescued 4 of them, including one I named Poppy, who had an injured toe, a body covered in scratches, and intestines filled with parasites. Yikes. I got all 4 birds veterinary care and shared their stories, asking members of the public to join me and calling for immediate action from law enforcement. Well, there's your problem. You told on yourself. The rescue, you could, do I agree with what you did? Yes. But, the rescue of 4 little hens finally sparked law enforcement intervention. However, instead of investigating years of reported criminal animal cruelty, law enforcement set off on a mission to gather evidence on what was likely the first act of compassion to be carried out within the slaughterhouse's carefully constructed walls and to charge me with crimes. Months after the rescue, as I was walking toward the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office to once again file a report of documented animal cruelty at Petaluma Poultry, I was placed in handcuffs and arrested on 7 counts of felony conspiracy. I was told about warrants obtained to access my cell phone data and other records, though some charges have since been dismissed or consolidated. I still face 1 felony, 3 misdemeanors, and nearly 5 years in jail. I have been forced to wear a GPS ankle monitor and adhere to other harsh pretrial release conditions for nearly 2 years because the government is afraid I might rescue more birds. Why? Okay. Yes, I hear what you're saying, but like they're not afraid that you might rescue more birds. They're afraid that you're going to keep entering a property that you're not legally allowed to enter and stealing things. Again, am I on your side? 100%. But let's not pretend it's a mystery why you're being arrested. Do I agree that laws need to change? Yes. Why? It's certainly not the monetary value of the birds. The value of a relatively healthy chicken raised in agriculture is only a few dollars, and the routine deaths of thousands before they even reach slaughter is deemed the cost of business. Moreover, there are so many animals in these facilities, it is unlikely anyone would have even noticed 4 chickens were gone if I had not publicized it. Yep. Instead, what is threatening is the idea inherent in my actions, that animals are individuals with lives worth living. Right. And so we're talking about that's why state by state, we need to start, passing legislation that says that animals are living things, not property. 100% agree. I'm a 23-year-old university student. I've been rescuing animals from abuse since the age of 11, when I founded my nonprofit, Happy Hen Animal Sanctuary. In the past, I've been able to work with law enforcement. Together, we've rescued roosters from illegal cockfighting rings and placed farmed animals in loving forever homes. But now, for saving 4 chickens, my entire future is at stake. Well, it's because instead of getting it, the cops can be on board when it's illegal cockfighting because there's something in it for them, right? They get something, they get to, also arrest human beings and like add it to their tab, and they love that. But when we're talking about a corporation worth millions and millions of dollars that everyone most people have eaten a product from in their lifetime, like that's a much more uphill battle. So now you're also trying to fight capitalism, which more power to you, but a much harder battle to fight. As I've gone to court, and so again, completely agree with her, but it's also we can't pretend we didn't know that you could get arrested for this. Girl, you knew. And good, get arrested. Go out there and fight for what you believe in and get arrested. I 100% am on board with that. As I've gone to court over the past 20 months, represented by the Animal Activists Legal Defense Project, hell yeah. Great option to donate to if you like to make your family members unhappy and donate to causes instead of giving them gifts during the holiday season that my family does. It has become obvious that the prosecutors are trying to make an example out of me to scare other concerned members of the public. Hell yeah. You're the Paris Hilton of chickens, lady. But that's okay. Let me be an example. Okay. Let me be an example of courage in the face of repression and of compassion in the face of violence. Now we're talking. Let me be an example of just how impossible it will be to stop the movement for animal rights. Love the energy. I will not apologize for my actions, and you shouldn't. I will not hang my head in shame. Don't. I refuse to accept that helping a few baby birds makes me a criminal. Hell, girl, even if they were adult baby birds, I would say don't hang your head in shame. Let alone a dangerous one. To apologize would be to say that poppy, ivy, aster, and azalea deserve the cruelty and see that's so naming them I feel like is when you lose some people, but I love it. Deserve the cruelty inflicted on them. It would be to say they deserve to shiver in a crate covered in scrapes and bruises as they were eaten alive by parasites. Disgusting. Any apology would be a lie. I am not sorry I saved their lives. Next week, I will be taking this case to trial. In court, I will view myself simply as a representative, a body, and a voice for all of the chickens who have been wronged by Perdue and by the animal agriculture industry as a whole. I will tell the jury about the birds I rescued and the birds failed by Sonoma County law enforcement. See, unfortunately, the thing is, if we go to the trial transcripts, like basically what, they're going to be asking is not, did you do something ethically correct? That's not the question you're being asked when you're on a jury. The question is going to be like, did you break the law? And like, yeah, I don't even need to look at the transcripts. Like, yeah, you did, right? And so those people are also, under oath, and like they also need to be making the decision that they feel like is ethically sound, So it's like hard because it's like, yeah, did you do the right thing ethically? Yes, you did. Did you do the wrong thing legally? Also, yes, you did. So what do? We got to fight this at a legal level, baby. We got to fight this. We got to fight to change, the standards these birds are held in, and like, really out when these people are lying, that the conditions that these birds are being subjected to, it's heinous. And like, yeah, you might go to jail, but honestly, between you and me, as someone who's been through those ages, you're like, people are like, oh, the 20s are the best years of your life. If you go to jail, spending 4.5 years in jail for the years that you'll be missing, I got to be honest, I think it's like, no, you couldn't do anything more badass with that time. Like, that'll be badass. And if you have to go to prison, I do recommend watching the Martha Stewart documentary before you have to go, because it seems like going to prison for her was like a life changer and made her even more badass somehow. So I don't know. I hope you don't have to spend 4.5 years there. I don't think you will. I think you'll get out pretty quickly because they're of overcrowding and stuff. But unless they're really trying to make an example of you, but like, you did something brave and bold, and you stood up for what you believe in, and that's awesome. And that's more awesome than anything you're gonna do from like for those you'll be out before you're 30. You're gonna have a cooler 20s than anyone who was blackout drunk clubbing. I assure you. More power to you. I salute you, Zoe. Good for you. All right. And again, if you want to follow her, it's at Zoe, spelled just like the short way, ZOE_rooster. Kristen says, I think this case deserves as much attention as possible and will be interesting to cover for Cutie's Corner. Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for sending it in and reminding me of this story. I love it. And like, it's like, and I think it, very similar to Luigi, it does open up this case between like, doing something that like ethically perhaps makes sense. Again, I don't agree with like gunning down the CEO of a healthcare company, but do I completely understand why he did? Also, yes. And it's a conversation about doing the right thing legally and doing the right thing morally. And those two things are often not the same things. And how do we change that? And how do we advertise that to constituents? How do we get people energized about this? And how do we get people outside of the animal rights sphere interested in stuff like this? Because even if you are a meat eater, I don't think you want to be eating chicken that's traumatized and covered in parasites before you eat it, right? Like, that doesn't even sound appetizing from or healthy or safe from just like a food regulation perspective. Like, even if you don't care about animals, even if you do have hold the viewpoint that that humans' life is more important than animal life, right? So like, there's so many ways to approach this, and it's all about getting people interested in the cause, right? Interested in the cause, kind of like White Coat Waste Project does, that we had one of the people on the show from a while ago. They talk about animal welfare, but they make people angry by telling them, look how much money the government is wasting doing this animal research, and on top of it, they're torturing animals, right? They make the animal torture, the animal welfare, whatever, secondary, just because we've seen that it like doesn't sometimes get people motivated enough. But what we know gets people motivated is money. And I think another thing that might get people motivated is health. Just kind of spitballing ideas here, Zoe. Pick up anyone that you want, leave what doesn't suit you, right? It's like a tarot reading. Leave what doesn't resonate with you, baby girl. But thanks for your work. Appreciate you. All right. Democrat, now we're going to go on to the main story. I mean, the whole thing is about just last night. Again, historical night for the Democrats. Let's keep up this momentum. This is an article from the New York Times about Democrats needing to maintain this momentum. This is from Nate Cohen, who writes The Tilt. I believe this is a little part of the New York Times that you have to pay for. Oh, I got his bio here. I didn't mean to get his bio. That is not what I wanted. Okay, 1 second. I have the wrong link up here. Nate Cohen, Democrats. What does it say? Yeah, okay. So the article is Can Tuesdays, this is The Tilt. So this is subscriber only. Can Tuesday's success carry Democrats to the midterms? This is the article that we are working from. Let me replace the link for you, Michael, very quickly. Talk amongst yourselves. Oh, God, why is this? All right, well, now my thing is frozen, so just maybe don't go to the link. You can just Google it, Mike. It's Nate Cohen. If you do Nate Cohen, COH.
New York Times article?
New York Times. It'll be The Tilt. It's called Can Tuesday's Success Carry Democrats to the Midterms? I got it. I just can't place the link for you to follow along. It just
I have his.
Won't let me.
I have his thing. Like his page on the New York Times.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing this whole time. I said I put the wrong link and I was trying to replace it.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was just doing.
I clicked on that link and I was able to find the article.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I was doing this whole time. Can Tuesday's success carry Democrats to the midterms? Victories across the country show promise for the party's chances next year, but some bigger issues remain. The Democratic Party has plenty of challenges, but they were easy to forget Tuesday night. Abigail Spanberger and Mikie Sherrill won governor's races in Virginia and New Jersey by double-digit margins. Zohran Mamdani will be New York's mayor. Democrats posted strong showings in Pennsylvania, Georgia, and elsewhere. In many ways, the outcome of off-year general elections like these are deeply imperfect measures of the national political environment or the state of the parties. They're not federal elections. They're shaped by local issues and idiosyncratic candidates. I mean, your mic's on. They're not always just shaped by local issues. I would say what was interesting about Zohran's mayoral campaign is that yes, he ran on local issues, but there were certainly underlying national issues that really elevated him. And Tuesdays were decided by the kind of highly engaged, lower turnout electorates that have repeatedly backed Democrats in recent years. Democrats also had an excellent showing in November 2023, 1 year before the last presidential election. They held the Kentucky governor's mansion, won key races in Virginia, won a Supreme Court election in Pennsylvania, and were surprisingly competitive in the Mississippi governor's race, while in Ohio, ballot measures on abortion rights and marijuana legalization prevailed. Democrats thought it meant that they had the political winds at their backs heading into the 2024 election. They were wrong. But next year is a midterm election, not a presidential one. And it wasn't just one or two down ballot races where Democrats benefited from strong candidates, but dozens of races across the country. Even Jay Jones, the embattled Democratic Attorney General candidate in Virginia, managed to win comfortably. While these results, like those in 2023, may not say much about the Democratic Party's broader woes, they probably do say something about what might be coming in next year's midterms. Over the last few years, the Democratic Party has excelled in lower turnout elections, which is to say anything but a presidential election. Since President Trump's second term began, Democrats have turned it up another notch. In special elections, Democrats have outrun Kamala Harris's performance by 15 percentage points on average, according to the down ballot. They won the Wisconsin Supreme Court election in April by double digits, and Tuesday night, Democrats outran Ms. Harris by 9 points in Virginia and 7 points in New Jersey. There's no guarantee that this track record of Democratic success will continue next fall, but there's pretty good reason to think the midterms will go well for Democrats. Historically, the party out of power fares well in midterm elections, just as the party out of power usually fares well in off-year general elections, as Democrats did Tuesday night. In recent years, the Democrats have also had an advantage among the most highly engaged and well-educated voters who make up a disproportionate share of lower turnout elections. While turnout data won't be final for some time, it's likely that Democrats benefited from a strong showing by those groups yet again. Indeed, the available data on the turnout by party registration in several New Jersey counties suggests that the electorate was more favorable to Democrats in New Jersey than it was in either 2024, 2022, or 2021. Similarly, early voting data generally seemed stronger for Democrats than in recent cycles. If there's any reason Democrats haven't been exuberant about their chances next fall, it might be the polling. While Mr. Trump's approval ratings have been pretty weak, the Democrats lead the generic midterm polling by only about 3 or 4 points among registered voters. That would probably be enough to retake the House, even with the current round of redistricting, but would not be the landslide of Democratic dreams. It wouldn't be close to the Democrats' strong performance in 2018 either. But Tuesday night, the Democrats did quite a bit better than the polls suggested. In New Jersey, the polls underestimated Democrats by 10 points. In Virginia, by 5 points. It continues a pattern, which, honestly, good, because we rushed on our laurels too much. So good. I'm glad everyone was scared and got out to vote. It continues a pattern of polls underestimating Democrats in recent off-year elections, while badly underestimating Republicans when Mr. Trump is on the ballot. Ever since Mr. Trump's victory last year, Democrats have been agonizing about the state of their party and its future. Tuesday didn't really offer answers. The relatively disengaged and disaffected voters who propelled Mr. Trump's victory probably sat this one out. The Democratic rebound in heavily Hispanic parts of New Jersey, for instance, could be mostly or entirely driven by changes in turnout. The New York mayoral race doesn't clarify things either. In many respects, Mr. Mamdani's election is extraordinary, and the enormous youth turnout for his candidacy is extraordinary as well. I mean, it is he did what you would do. And again, what my plan was, had my campaign continued, is obviously you're entering as a no-name, pretty much. A no-name with little to no experience. So what you want to do is, the establishment is not going to welcome you with open arms, but the establishment is a small bubble, and you can truly not use any of those voters, and you can still win the election by just focusing on people who normally aren't inspired to vote at all, people who aren't that's a way bigger amount of people than people who do vote, right? So concentrate on those people, and then other people will end up following suit, who are interested in politics when they see, that you're causing a hullabaloo, right? So, I think this was smart. When the data is final, it will probably show that the share of voters 18 to 29 approached or perhaps even exceeded its share from the last presidential election. This is unheard of. It's the kind of youth surge that the Bernie Sanders campaign promised but never delivered. But with Andrew Cuomo, a Democrat, running as an independent, the race did not ultimately test Mr. Mamdani's strength in a one-on-one contest against a Republican, which I was something that I was thinking about a lot. He still would have won, I think, but it would have been different. The Democratic vote, I was kind of he couldn't do this because Curtis Sliwa already took the position, but I'm Andrew Cuomo should have just run as the Republican. His views are Republican anyway, or a lot of them. The Democratic vote was split, and it's impossible to know how many of Mr. Cuomo's traditionally Democratic supporters would have voted for the Republican. It's possible most Cuomo voters would have come over to his side, but again, we won't know. And while Ms. Spanberger and Ms. Sherrill fared extremely well, it is not at all obvious whether their campaigns offered a solution to the party's problems. They campaigned on the cost of living and against Mr. Trump, but they didn't find what the party has been grasping for, a way to channel the energy of the party's base without alienating or, better still, appealing to swing voters. Which is an interesting point, right? Zohran's approach was, let's get a lot of people who were uninspired to vote, who are like, younger and stuff, or maybe were like independent. I don't think these were really like swing voters, though. I think he did probably better with people who don't vote. Swing voters are an interesting bunch, though. 4 years ago, Glenn Youngkin's campaign for Virginia governor did a lot of what Democrats probably wish their candidates might have done. He campaigned on a new set of issues by capitalizing on the simmering backlash against pandemic-era restrictions and woke. In many ways, it foreshadowed the struggles that Democrats would face in 2024 and beyond. And it let someone who might have otherwise been a Mitt Romney-like private equity establishment type turn into the moment's conservative hero. If the Trump era has brought a similar opportunity for Democrats today, they haven't seemed to have found it yet. So it's interesting. I'd have to look more deeply into like everything that Mikie Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger did. Again, we're going to get into Mikie Sherrill's campaign a little bit more because I did follow that a little bit more closely. I was really focused on her social media, which I thought was quite poor, especially with the amount of money that you have in the New Jersey governor's race and how cheap it is to make good social media. It's like the cheap. I can't believe we're overlooking it. It's literally cheaper than print. One of the most costly things, we think of like print as cheap. One of the most costly things in election is sending out mailers to everyone's apartments and houses that mostly get thrown in the trash, right? And so you have this amazing, cost-effective, wide-reaching, accessible tool with social media, with video that can go on Facebook, it can go on X, it can go on Instagram, it can go on Threads, it can go on Snapchat, it can go on TikTok. You just have the ability to reach so many people and be accessible, which is something the Democrats desperately need to do. It's like when you think about like what is the accessible, like what is the Fox News of like accessibility when it comes to like how you access your news, right? Like highbrow is like, actually reading a newspaper that you touch, and then you talk about, going to a news website, and then below that is kind of clicking through memes and shit on Instagram and watching short form content on Instagram to familiarize yourself with candidates. That's what we cannot, like, why is Zohran Mamdani like the only campaign that's working on it? There was a couple other younger people who accessed it through mayor's races and stuff, other mayor's races across the nation. But like just the cheapness of her social media campaign, like it is so easy. There are so many people available to hire to make your social media absolutely beautiful. There is no excuse, right? And even for my campaign, right? Like I was working with 100K at the top of my game. So it's like I didn't have just like a lot of those people I had to pay to get my petition signatures because that was the first thing that my money had to go towards, because otherwise I wasn't making it on the ballot, right? After that, the money would have been to beautify my social media, to make it higher quality, to be using renting red cameras, getting better graphic design and all that. And like I had hired a graphic designer, but like you're still working within the constraints of your budget. And so it's like, it's crazy to me that someone with Mikie Sherrill money, wasn't doing that. Like you need people of all ages on your team, even if you're not familiar or you don't understand, especially, someone with children, like you have to understand the power and the reach and the cost effectiveness and the accessibility of social media. And again, this isn't new. Like this shouldn't be new. Andrew Yang been doing this. And so to me, campaigns like mine and Zohran Mamdani's were just really taking notes from what worked for Andrew Yang and then polishing them and going back. And of course, Zohran coming from an artist family, makes sense. And, I actually read an article today talking about how his wife also designs a lot of the lettering and stuff for his campaign, and they pulled from colors that mean things to New Yorkers, like subway, MetroCard yellow, and Mets blue. They used Mets blue, not Yankees blue, which are different blues. And so I just thought this was like really, really
a true underdog story.
Right. I thought it was really interesting. Well, also if I'm going with design, Met's blue is, a little more neon. And so it's a little more eye catching and it goes along and it does complement MetroCard yellow better, which rest in peace. This is last year for that MetroCard. All right. So let's move on. Mike, is there water? Sorry, I didn't get water before I came in here, and I am dying. All right. Oh, of course, I closed that before I put the link on here. All right, fill in link. And now I want to go to another article. And I'm going to go to some right-leaning places too, because we're going to be talking about this for rest of the show. Just I think this is like, this is kind of one of our strategy update stories. And I, even if you're not from, even if we're talking about the mayor's race, please, in New York City, I think you guys know by now, this is like speaks to a much larger success in the Democratic Party. And all these smaller races are really just things that we need to use as leap pads to get to the next place that we need to get to. All right. So this next one is from the Washington Post, about Republicans being shaken. Republicans shaken by election losses and split on how to fix things. Trump urges GOP to pass legislation to make them unbeatable. Vance says no more infighting. Others in the party have different views. And it's so funny because normally the party of infighting, I feel like, honestly, Democrats are more guilty of infighting than Republicans. But Vance says no more infighting amongst you guys. I think the infighting for there is more like MAGA versus like a more traditional Republican in many ways. Republicans are reeling after Democrats swept off-year races in several blue and purple states across the country on Tuesday, blaring a warning siren that their party may be in trouble ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. But they appear divided on how to course correct and what lessons the losses could hold for the midterms, with some strategists and officials believing President Donald Trump needs to flex more muscle in upcoming contests to fire up the base, and others believing congressional Republicans need to develop their own distinct brand on the economy ahead of 2026 in the face of Trump's tariffs. Trump, who faces low approval ratings in polls less than a year into his second term, offered his own prescription, blaming his party's bruising election night losses on the ongoing government shutdown and urging Republicans to end the funding gridlock, which is the longest in U.S. history. Vice President J.D. Vance said in a social media post that Republicans need to work harder to make a decent life affordable and also stop infighting with each other, even as he downplayed the significance of the losses. We have to get the country open. And the way we're going to do it is this afternoon is to terminate the filibuster, Trump said during a meeting with Republican senators at the White House, referencing a procedural rule in the Senate that requires 60 votes to pass most legislation. We will pass legislation that you've never seen before, and it'll be impossible to beat us. Okay, classic. Both parties have been reluctant to eliminate the rule, which historically has served as a potent check on the majority in a chamber where the balance of power frequently shifts. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Republican South Dakota, told reporters later Wednesday that it's just not happening. The tone of urgency from the very top of the party comes as Democrats found success in key contests across the country, including in New York, New Jersey, and Virginia, where they criticized Trump's second-term agenda and vowed to pursue policies to address the high cost of living. Tuesday's wins also extended into key purple states such as Pennsylvania and Georgia, where Democrats retained several state Supreme Court seats and ousted 2 GOP incumbents on a state utility board, respectively. The electoral drubbing also raised an issue Republicans have continually faced in the Trump era: how to get MAGA voters who reliably show up for Trump in presidential election years to turn out to vote for GOP lawmakers when Trump is not on the ballot. It just remains to be seen whether working class, low propensity voters turn out to vote when Donald Trump is not on the ballot, said Senator Josh Hawley, a Republican from Missouri. I don't know. They haven't yet. That could pose an existential issue for the party with Trump in his last term as president. Well, legally. For now. One GOP strategist involved in midterm races who, like others, spoke on the condition of anonymity to disclose internal discussions, said the president must be more involved in the midterm elections to fire up the base and make the case that he has kept core campaign promises, such as securing the border. He and in New York, he endorsed Andrew Cuomo, as did Elon Musk, day of the election, and did not endorse the Republican candidate. He has a platform and a megaphone, which is also crazy because we have early voting here and so many people had already voted. He has a platform and a megaphone that no candidate can outrival, the strategist said. Having him bought in and on the ground is going to be very important. For his part, Trump did little to campaign or fundraise in many of Tuesday's marquee races because he doesn't care about the Republican Party, guys. He cares about himself and his cronies. Come on, you know that.
Yeah, but I mean, he did. There are talks that he offered Sliwa, God knows what, to drop out of the race. There was an offer to.
Well, yeah, because he wants, he has a special relationship with New York, and he wants to keep that accessible to him. And Andrew Cuomo would have allowed him a route to do that, where he knows it's going to be a fight with Zohran.
Right, of course. I'm just saying, to say that he did nothing for these campaigns is a bit of an overstate. Yes, he wasn't on the ground shaking hands and kissing babies.
What he always does is trying to solve it with money.
That's not what he always does. This is
internally with his buddies.
This is new for Trump 2.0. This practice of
worse?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's significant. I mean, look at his record from 16 to 20 versus now.
So when I say money, I'm talking about I'm not talking about his last term. I'm talking about his start as a businessman.
Oh, his propensity to take contracts from guys and then not pay them.
Yeah, it's okay, do things with money. Everything is about money, whether it's giving it or taking it. Yes, I hear you. Also, parched, Michael. You've already forgotten. Including, for his part, Trump did little to campaign or fundraise in many of Tuesday's marquee races, including declining to personally get involved in the fight against the California ballot proposition that counters his redistricting push in Texas and other red states. Republicans were significantly outspent in both Virginia, where top Republicans complained about the electability of Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears, and New Jersey. Thank you. Another Republican strategist noted that the president's campaign has raised about $2 billion and must open up the coffers if they want to hold on to the House and the Senate in 2026. House Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican Louisiana, said he told Trump on Wednesday morning that he is effectively on the ballot in 2026 because Democrats will try to impeach him if they win the House in 2026. That's smart. The president needs 4 years to complete his agenda, not just 2. So he's in a very real sense on the ballot, Johnson said. He's fiercely committed to us winning. Another key concern for Republicans is Trump's approach to the economy. The president has liberally levied tariffs on a host of other countries, increasing the costs of some goods in the United States. The Democrats who won on Tuesday, Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, Mikie Sherrill in New Jersey, and Zohran Mamdani in New York, all focused much of their campaigns on bringing down costs in their regions. The president just needs to tune back the dial on anything that's going to increase the price to the consumer, Senator Tom Tillis, Republican, North Carolina, who is not seeking re-election, said of the tariffs. Another GOP strategist involved in House races urged Republicans to separate themselves from some of the administration's policies, like indiscriminate tariffs that are increasing costs for the American people ahead of the midterms. It is unclear if Republicans will focus on cost-cutting measures in the Capitol, which have largely ground to a halt because of the shutdown. The benefits of the tax cut bill that Republicans passed in July will not be felt until Americans do their taxes early next year, which some strategists say they hope will boost voters' perception of Republicans on the economy. But others said that the party must do more to tackle costs, legislative Lee, to show voters that they are trying to address the issue that Trump campaigned on in 2024. Trump's political strategist, James Blair, faulted some GOP candidates for not focusing enough on affordability in the face of Democratic candidates who centered their campaigns on those issues. Why did Zohran Mamdani do so well last night? He relentlessly focused on affordability, he told Politico. People talk about communists. They can say all these things, but the fact is he was talking about the cost of living. Republicans, while spooked by the strong showing from Democrats, also said that the midterms are a year away and that they were prepared for the GOP to have a bad night, given that many of the biggest contests were taking place in blue states. They plan to tie Mamdani, a Democratic socialist, to other Democratic candidates running in more purple races to try to paint them as radical. But they tried. It doesn't work. Like, what's radical? Again, like, nothing he was running on was. I wouldn't describe anything as actually radical. It's not the right word, you know? If you want to say anything, the only thing you could say is, like, does the mayor have the power to do this? Not radical. Polls also show the Democratic Party overall has low approval ratings as they struggle to find their identity after Kamala Harris's bruising loss to Trump. You go back to 21 and Glenn Youngkin winning governor in Virginia, and people thought, oh no, this is bad news for Democrats, said Senator Steve Daines, Republican Montana. But look what happened in 22. It was not a good cycle for us. Daines ran the Senate Republicans' campaign arm in 2024. But at Wednesday's breakfast with senators, Trump urged the lawmakers to overhaul their chamber's rules to be able to pass legislation without Democratic votes and deliver on more of his campaign promises. He warned that if they did not move to eliminate the filibuster, Democrats would. And when they do abolish the filibuster, they're going to pack the court, Trump said, in an apparent reference to the U.S. Supreme Court, which has a conservative 6-3 majority. Democrats have said they will not fund the government until Trump and Republicans agree to extend COVID-era subsidies to prevent health insurance premiums from increasing. GOP leaders say they will not negotiate until Democrats vote to reopen the government. Democrats said the results showed voters are unhappy with Trump's second term. What Democrats have done all across the country is lean into the issue of affordability because of the fact that America is too expensive, costs are too high, said House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat, New York. Oh, look who finally showed up. Donald Trump and the Republicans, not only have they not done anything about it, they've made it worse. Mm-hmm. Water break. Sorry.
That was Jeffries, you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear his quote the other day?
No. What quote? No.
Zohran Mamdani is not the future of the Democratic Party. House Democrats are.
Oh, I saw. I think I heard about that. I didn't hear him say it exactly. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, it was it's a very frustrating thing to hear when it's like, okay, this guy is being touted as like the new, like, you know, we just heard Pelosi's not running for re-election.
Yeah.
So it's like somebody's going to need to fill that power vacuum of the, like, you know, the deeply entrenched Democrat, right? And if this is your face, this is your ace card for the next, 15, however long Pelosi had the job, right? 25 years or something like that. This is who you're projecting as your next guy, the dude who is telling us that the same old Democrats who had absolutely nothing to do with a massive sweeping victory for people who wanted real change. That's your plan, is to just keep the crony capitalism system going, guys.
Yeah, he has such name recognition, and like he absolutely fumbled what could have been a really good opportunity. I mean, I think, didn't he like endorse Zohran, like,
I endorsed the Democratic candidate. No, he said he didn't even endorse him by name. He said I endorsed the Democratic candidate from New York.
That's embarrassing.
It's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm gonna look for the exact quote, but I do believe somebody pointed that out last time we recorded this show, that Jeffries, quote unquote, gave an endorsement, but it was not for Zohran, for the Democratic nominee.
Yeah, like, listen, I think endorsements at their core are kind of ridiculous, but but because they exist, if you are a sitting elected official of the party, you gotta back the other people from the party, unless you have an actual, real, like, ethical fear or issue with something they're going to do. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't just say, like, blindly back anyone, but, like, if it's like just like it's not your favorite person, you can't do that. But if it's like if there was actually like a reason why he's like, this is like a big problem. I have a big fear. I think this person, this, Trump is a great example. Like, so he became the Republican nominee. Like, so to speak out against someone like that and you say like, no, I have a fear, like this guy should not be elected. Like, I'm going to do something crazy and like actually like endorse like the Democratic nominee or something, even though I'm a Republican. Like, do something crazy like that, like if you want to do that. But like if you have a reason for not endorsing them, like let us know, right? But otherwise it's just not going to be good for you, like because it's like if you're a sitting elected official, if you're in either party, like unfortunately you got to play the game, which is like, that's where I was out. I go, I can't be playing this game. This is disgusting.
So I do the full quote. He did say Zohran's name. He said, Zohran has relentlessly focused on addressing the affordability crisis in New York, explicitly committed to being a mayor for all New Yorkers, including those who did not support him. In that spirit, I support him and the entire citywide Democratic ticket in the GE.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. I mean, again, like it's like after the primary, it's like, this guy's going to win. Like, it's not even smart for you not to like, I guess if they fear like he's going to do a bad job, they don't want to be associated with it. But it's like, you're not responsible for the job he does as mayor. That's not what you're responsible for. I don't think. Let's see. Okay. No, Vivek Ramaswamy did a little op-ed for the New York Post. Loving that. That'll be our next piece. Tuesday's elections were a GOP wake-up call for these two reasons. Let's see what Vivek has to say. Tuesday night's election results are a wake-up call. The GOP got swept in New York City, New Jersey, and Virginia. Yes, they're all blue jurisdictions, but Virginia's current governor is Republican. Many of us believe New Jersey was winnable, and New York City didn't just elect any old ordinary Democrat, but a self-proclaimed socialist. No excuses, we just need to own it. But a kick in the rear end isn't always bad if we're willing to reflect and learn. There are two key lessons from last night's losses, one related to economics, another to culture wars. First, Republicans need to focus on the issue of affordability, which, I mean, you did, but you lied, apparently, with Trump. Too many Americans feel like they can't afford a decent life when costs have risen faster than wages over the last half decade. We can't hide from the problem because it isn't going away. Yeah, no, it's crazy. Everything's too expensive. Here's what I hear across Ohio. Electric bills are rising. Healthcare costs are nonsensical. Home ownership is a struggle for young and elder Americans alike. And ordinary groceries are priced like luxury goods. The problem isn't limited to my home state either. It's a national phenomenon. We know how to fix it. The root cause of inflation is government overspending, and we need to curb it at every level. Supply side constraints matter too, and we need to cut bureaucracy that gets in the way of production, including at the state and local levels. Speed up permitting to build power plants and natural gas pipelines to reduce electric costs. Get rid of red tape and land use restrictions that limit new home construction. That's a big one. Slash property taxes to make ongoing home ownership more affordable. I've been one of the most vocal critics of Zohran Mamdani's asinine policy proposals. Freezing the rent or government control of grocery stores will eventually harm the very people he purports to help. But give respect where it's due. He was right to at least focus on the issue of affordability at all, while his opponents all but ignored it. This is an irony because conservatives have the right answers to address the affordability challenge, relieve supply constraints, tame government waste, and deliver tax relief to working families. But we now need to emphasize these solutions and move them to the top of our agenda instead of getting lost in distractions. And that's the second lesson. It's time for the GOP to officially reject identity politics once and for all. I love how like each side gets a talking to with the same way when they're not doing well. I wrote my first book, Woke Incorporated, in 2021. I love when people have a title that was like, would have been good 10 years prior. To criticize left-wing identity politics in corporate America. I wrote my second book, Nation of Victims, that one's a little better, in 2022 to criticize left-wing identity politics in American culture. I wrote my fourth book, Truths, last year to re-emphasize both points ahead of the election. I traveled the country to help re-elect President Donald Trump, who stands for merit over group quotas. I'm proud to have supported him. All right. So take it from me when I say that racial grievance politics is now emerging as a real problem, not just on the left, but in an ascendant online fringe of the American right. Until recently, this was mostly reserved for dusty corners of the internet. Just take a look at replies to my own X feed if you want to taste for some of the fringe right's toxicity against Hindus and Indian Americans. Quote, Pajit, street. I don't even know what that's slash.
For real?
It's a slur, and I don't even know.
Okay.
Don't say it. Do not say it.
Someone who defecates outside.
Oh, God. People are so lame.
Well,
Mike, don't get yourself into a pickle.
I watched a PSA from India about stop pooping in the streets. This was from a decade ago. This was something the Indian government made.
Okay, we're not
for the people.
I understand, but this is an Indian American. But there's reason to believe that these online currents are now affecting voter behavior in the real world too. Sherrill was called horse-faced, and well, I mean that's welcome to being a woman. Sherrill was called horse-faced and attacked with misogynistic slurs I won't repeat here. Virginia's Abigail Spanberger faced much of the same. So also, side note, I was noticing that there's something very similar about Abigail and Mikie Sherrill. They kind of look alike. I was they could be related. And then I found out when they both worked in Washington, D.C., they were roommates. Isn't that interesting? They do seem very similar, haircuts, there's just a lot of similar, it's a similar, cut from the same cloth kind of a person. And I was oh, they're friends, they're besties.
This is like finding out Attell and Sandler were roommates in college.
Were they?
They're
not the same age. Isn't Attell older than Sandler?
I thought that was the opening scene of Funny People, wasn't it? Actual home videos of Sandler and.
Oh, I didn't know that anything from Funny People was actually. Oh, I don't know. I have to go back. I love Funny People, but I haven't watched it in forever.
Sandler's 59. I have thought this.
Attell's a little.
Attell is 60.
Yeah, I was Attell's a touch older. I was he's 60.
I mean, they would have been.
No,
at NYU at the same time.
I guess Dave Attell reads a lot older than Sandler. But Sandler reads very young because of his sense of humor.
Sandler wears basketball. Sandler still plays basketball daily at 59.
And just the jokes he makes and the films he makes just read younger. All right. In New York, Mamdani, a Muslim American, was labeled a terrorist, raghead, and worse. I mean, crazy. You're just what are you even talking about here? As conservatives, we should be able to say that this is disgusting and morally wrong, and we should be able to say it without stuttering. Okay, Vivek. Yet many Republicans can't because they're afraid of online backlash from what was once just an irrelevant fringe act of actual bigots who don't actually represent our party in the real world. Okay, look at me agreeing with Vivek Ramaswamy. But these kinds of attacks helped Democrats defeat Republicans last night. Sure did. When independent voters see toxic voices on the new right acting like the identitarian left, obsessing over someone's race, religion, or gender instead of their ideas, they reject it. Yup. We're supposed to be the party of merit, hard work, and the American dream. The idea that anyone from any racial background can succeed based on hard work and talent. I feel like you've missed the any racial background part for quite some time, but okay. When we traffic...
This is Vivek.
I know it's Vivek, but Vivek is one of those people who sometimes you feel are they working against their own people, And it's also select races. There are some races that Republicans will put up with, When we traffic in the woke left's identity-based obsession, we betray our own values. The online fringes want to drag us into rabbit holes about genetic identity, religious litmus tests, and ethnic grievances. It's a trap. Most Muslims, Jews, Hindus, Latinos, and Asian Americans are naturally conservative. They value faith, family, hard work, and entrepreneurship. That's not true. Jews are an interesting group of people because there is it's half of Jews are super liberal. We're talking Ben and Jerry's liberal, right? That's a big group of Jews. And then there's this other group of Jews that has been louder than I would like during this last election that are conservative. And I mean, I mean, some Jews just breaking my heart. Amy Schumer voting for Cuomo, breaking my heart. And talking about it publicly, break my heart again. You know, if you're going to be crazy, do it privately, please. Many fled socialist countries. Or religious persecution to seek freedom. They want school choice, safe streets, and economic opportunity. They should be Republican voters. We should embrace them, not chase them away. Tuesday's losses stung, but hardship isn't victimhood. If we focus on affordability and reject toxic identity politics, we'll win in 2026 with the same coalition that elected President Trump last year. Well, you better pick someone good to run. Because I've been hearing some whispers of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I don't think that's going to be the candidate that you're going to want to back. If we focus on what?
The candidate is, if this Trump train keeps rolling, the candidate is Vance. Everyone's already like coalescing around Vance if Trump doesn't pull some shenanigans.
One of the craziest things I've ever heard. I don't even think Trump thinks that Vance should be the person.
Yeah, he literally said, he went on 60 Minutes this week and talked about how deep the Republican bench is right now.
He can say what he wants to say. I feel like he's going to have one of his sons run, like the pastor said. JD, there's no way Trump respects Vance. There's no way. There's no way. Vance would be such a weak candidate. That guy blows. Erica Kirk is better to run.
That's the other MAGA fanfic going on right now.
That they're together?
Yeah, JD Vance is
right.
going to leave his ungodly Hindu wife for the good sweet princess of MAGA.
I did hear that. Well, there's all like the conspiracy that was the plan all along, that she was in on the assassination. I don't even have time. It's back to the article. It's time to remember who we are as Republicans and what we actually stand for, and to act boldly in the face of idiocy and bigotry without apology. Vivek Ramaswamy is a candidate for governor of Ohio. I agreed with a lot of that. So good for you. Good for you, Vivek.
Vivek, out of the guys who actually showed up for the Republican, what was that thing called? The primary?
What was that thing called? The primary.
Well, I mean, it was a farce because Trump wasn't showing up to them and was dominating everyone. So it's like, sure, this is the Republican primary debate. Everyone's going to watch this while Trump goes live on Twitter with Tucker and gets 75 times the views. Like, it's so stupid. But of those guys, Vivek was the only one I looked at and went, okay, this guy doesn't seem that compromised.
Right. No, I remember you talking about him.
I don't like how he made his money, and that will always make me a little suspect of him. But, whatever gets you in the dance. As long as you're playing your cards right at that point, you're better than Bill Ackman.
Oh, anti-Ackman today. Love. All right. So, and then I just kind of like went down the spiral of crazy websites just to see what was going on, because I felt like they would be all having a breakdown today. Fox News had, oddly enough, on the landing page, Bernie Sanders, and it was like a kind of pro Bernie because Bernie was attacking establishment Democrats. I'm going to do that story for the bonus episode today, but I thought that was interesting because, Bernie was, pissed at all the Democrats that didn't back Zohran. And then this is from Breitbart. The step downs have already started. FDNY commissioner hands in resignation less than 12 hours after Mamdani win. Other top officials expected to follow suit. Listen, do I think this is silly? Yes. But I actually am I do, even though I don't agree with the FDNY commissioner, I respect these people for doing what they said they were going to do. And I'm also on the edge of my seat waiting for the 1 million New Yorkers who said they were going to leave if Mamdani won to leave, because we need more space here. And if you don't want to be here, then if you don't want to be in New York, please don't be in New York, okay? There are too many of us who really, really want to be in this city. So if you're on the fence, please leave. But if you're on the fence because of affordability, don't leave. Let's try to fix that. But if you're on the fence because it's too liberal for you, then maybe just leave. Yes.
Did you see, like, people were talking about the flights to Boca from New York City this morning being super expensive?
Okay, so I didn't know if that was people being silly on Threads or if that was legit. I didn't look into it further, but that was for real?
I don't know. I was asking you because I saw that, but then I saw the cost of the flights and they were like $200, and I was like, how cheap are you expecting flights to Florida to be?
Right. Yeah, no, I thought that was just being people kind of being silly on Threads. I didn't take that seriously.
Maybe it's $80 to fly to Boca normally. Who knows? Who flies to Boca?
I mean, $80 on what airline? No one who's going to Boca. So the FDNY Commissioner Robert Tucker handed in his resignation today, less than 12 hours after Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani was announced the winner of New York City's mayoral election. The fire chief tendered his resignation the morning after anti-Israel Zohran Mamdani was declared the mayor-elect of New York City, according to a report by New York Daily News. On Wednesday morning, Tucker informed New York City Mayor Eric Adams that December 19th will be his last day as FDNY commissioner, according to an email obtained by the newspaper. Between now and then, I will continue to lead the greatest fire department in the world and will ensure an orderly transition, Tucker said in his letter to Adams. While Tucker's reasons for resigning were not immediately made clear, an FDNY source told New York Daily News that the fire chief, a Jewish philanthropist and businessman, felt he wouldn't mesh well with the incoming mayor and his team. Okay. I mean, I would say give it a try, but like fair if you're like kind of like, I'm ready to retire anyway. Okay, that's fine.
How did a Jewish philanthropist and businessman become the head of the FDNY?
No, I know.
Shouldn't it be a firefighter that's the head of the FDNY?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, it's also like, it's like, I guess it's like owning a basketball team or something. Kind of,
where
right?
It's like, it's all Italians and Irish guys, but it's a Jewish dude who owns the team.
Yeah, no, I found that interesting as well. Mamdani, a self-proclaimed socialist who has repeatedly refused to say that the terrorist group Hamas should lay down its arms, will be sworn in as New York City's new mayor on January 1st, 2026. An Adams administration official told the newspaper that several others who serve as top aides to the mayor, including Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Kaz Daughtry, are also expected to submit their resignations in coming days. So it's like, all right, well, then you're just going to make it easier because he's going to bring in all his people. Okay. Daughtry, who once served as NYPD Deputy Commissioner, has been Adams's top public safety deputy at City Hall. Or it's because you know you're going to get fired anyway, and you just want to do you want to do it on your own terms, as well as key liaison between the mayor's team and the President Donald Trump's administration. As for Tucker, he plans to go back to running TNM, a private security firm he founded in 1999, so sources told New York Post. Tucker, a long-standing member of the board of directors of the FDNY Foundation, the official nonprofit organization of the FDNY, so that explains why, previously worked as a special assistant in the Queens District Attorney's Office. The fire commissioner has also been involved in various charitable endeavors, including serving as secretary of the FDNY Foundation, and has received honors from the New York Board of Rabbis and Big Brothers Big Sisters of New York City. Tucker is reportedly expected to speak on his resignation soon. Mamdani, who won the mayor's race after the city's elite imported a large number of poor... Wait, this sentence, I gotta really tackle this one, wait. Mamdani, who won the mayor's race after the city's elite imported a large number of poor migrants as an economic strategy to raise rents, cut wages, and boost retail spending, defeated former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo in the general election by garnering 50% of the vote. The election results mean the Democratic Socialist, who dared President Donald Trump to, quote, turn the volume up during his victory speech on Tuesday night, is set to become the first Muslim mayor of New York City. As Breitbart News reported, Islamic advocates are gloating over Mamdani's win, with Pakistani-born lawyer and journalist Qasim Rashid declaring America's mayor is an American Muslim immigrant. Okay, I mean, I don't know if that was the mic drop ending that you thought it was going to be. Like, those are just factual things. He is an American. He is a Muslim. He is an immigrant. he said these things about himself. Okay. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Yes. You can run for office. Hey, if you're Muslim, if you're an immigrant, run for office. You're allowed to. Like, what? I don't even know what we're talking about here. And then, let's maybe end it with InfoWars. Yeah, and it's like, yes, the government's still shut down. It's so long as it's been shut down.
Well, I'm at the very end of that Breitbart article, that line where you were like, "Hey, let's hold this down, and go through it slowly." Like the concept of importing migrants to a city to take jobs that, like in Texas, like there's a bunch of migrant workers who you can get to work in your hotels, right?
Sure.
Like if you
and also but it's also like these are not jobs that people here were going to take.
Sure. Right. I'm just making the point, like you now have this workforce the same way that like Texas was dealing with that, or New Mexico or Arizona, like any of those like border states. What, seeing how their investments in those places played out when they could spend less on, on your number one expense, which is payroll. Like it's. I was reading a thing yesterday about how like this was a big issue in Rome. Like when Rome fell, was that the citizens were complaining that the elites were bringing in from the conquered parts of the empire. They were bringing in migrants to take jobs. And they were finding in a couple of generations, like we have with Mamdani here, the son, granted his parents came to this country wealthy, but regardless, this is the son of an immigrant who now has the top job in New York City.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's like that idea of like, okay, we're bringing in this migrant class to work for cheaper wages, to make more profits for the elites. And then those, the next generation of those people who did come from very hardworking families, just beating out the children of the people who were here.
Because they'll actually have a work ethic because their parents worked.
Right. So it's like this is not a new concept, So like for Breitbart to say that, I don't know if the elites of the city actually conspired with Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis and whoever else was sending those buses and flights of people to these quote unquote sanctuary cities in the Northeast. But
right, that's what I'm saying. It seems a little like, okay, I don't know that this happened, but I hear you, and like a lot of the talk of I was reading articles about the concept of like that Zohran wants to tax the rich and then use that money to fund services for the working class people. Like he was like, well, we wouldn't have to do this if you had paid them fair wages to begin with. Was like, I don't know if Zohran was saying that directly or if like articles about him were saying that. I can't remember. I think it was articles about him actually. But I'm sure said it as well. Which makes perfect sense. So it's basically like you're taking what was owed to these people who were underpaid to begin with and then giving it back to them. So it's just like, we're going to get this money out of you one way or another. So like, yeah, don't underpay your workers. That sucks. You suck. Like, that's like a big thing for me. Like I make sure not to like, I even people who were volunteering for my campaign, I was like, as soon as I could get them on the payroll, anyone who was like showing up a lot, I tried to get them on the payroll, any of the volunteers, or I offered them positions, people who were like volunteers who kept showing up. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to like penalize you for offering to show up for free, like that to me says like, you're the exact kind of person that I want on my campaign's payroll. Let's see. Okay. Oh, and then also I thought I had written this down in my monologue, but another thing that like really speaks to just like how much work, even though it doesn't seem like it's similar to AOC's win, went into planning to position Zohran Mamdani to win this election, and how I know that they really knew that he had a real chance of winning, was that he got engaged to his now wife in October, and days later announced his campaign. That is such a tell. And I can't believe I didn't notice that earlier, but I was thinking about it. And then I went back and I traced the timeline. No one's really talking about this, but it's like, we have a history in America of feeling much more confident in politicians who are married, right? This has like been talked about a lot. This is not new information. And especially because of his youth, I'm not saying he doesn't love his wife and didn't want to get married to her anyway. They've been dating since 2021. But I mean, that timing is a tell. I can't believe many more people aren't talking about this. And then they got married in City Hall earlier this year, which also was like if he was not campaigning, they would have had a huge wedding. Like, I just know they would have. Like, there was the City Hall, it plays into like, I'm a regular guy and like all this kind of stuff, whatever. And they had ceremonies separately and, in other places. But I'm like, I think they would have had a wedding, not a City Hall wedding. But anyway, yeah, I was like, oh, like they really had to know he had a good shot of winning and really knew that they had a really good campaign planned that was so much more extensive than any of us knew. If they felt so strongly about it that they needed to make sure Zohran was married by the time this general election came around, the primary came around anyway. So I just thought that was like an interesting piece. Like, if we're talking about like, oh, this guy just came out of nowhere. He seemingly came out of nowhere. Much like Ricky Martin's Grammy appearance many years ago made it seem like he was an overnight sensation and he had not been working in the industry for a long time, right? So like this is the same thing. It's like these candidates that are coming out of nowhere, much like famous actors and actresses, they have been developed and curated. They have been developed and their campaigns have been curated. Again, like, I'm not speaking out against this because obviously the Democrats need a frickin' plan. So good on the DSA for actually taking the bull by the horns and making the plan. But like, this is not just like a guy who woke up in a story and was like, you know what? I want to make New York City better. Whereas I literally did wake up in the East Village and I was like, I want to make New York City better. But that's why his campaign did a lot better than mine. All right. So we're closing out with this InfoWars one. Is Mamdani's victory the beginning? This one is so over the top. They just kept getting more and more over the top, guys. This is the editor's choice for InfoWars. And just know some people actually use this as a real news source. This is the comedic ending to today's show. Is Mamdani's victory the beginning of an Islamic uprising? NYC mayors, staffers, and other Muslims admit they desire takeover of America. All right, let's get into it. This is by Kellen McBreen. Getting more and more Muslims into elected office is seen by the Islamic world as part of the soft coup of the West. And like, this is not a new thing. People have talked about it before. And, I think there are terrorists who want to take, who are fighting against Western culture. I don't think that includes Zohran Mamdani, but I know there's a lot of you who do. Not listening to this show, but, existing in the world. So following Tuesday's New York City mayoral election victory by Muslim socialist Democrat Zohran Mamdani, several videos went viral online showing his Islamist staffers and followers admitting they view electing him as a win for their dream of taking over the U.S. Mamdani intern Hadika Arzu Malik called the election part of jihad. Okay, I gotta catch up on this. And encouraged Muslims to begin ignoring the consequences for doxing, getting arrested, and suspended. And again, just to defend Zohran here, it's like, you can't associate like a rogue intern with the entire campaign, because I'm sure this was not like signed off on by Zohran or the campaign for that matter. And I'm sure there were many, in fact, I know there were people who were like canvassing for me and stuff whose like personal political views or everything that they personally believed in did not align with my values or the values of the campaign, but they weren't things that they were like, that I thought were like violent or there was nothing like that was like violent or outlandishly problematic or something like that, right? But it's like, these people who work for campaigns, especially someone, as like an intern that's not like very probably interacting with Zohran personally at all for a campaign that big, it's like, this is a bit of a stretch is what I'm really trying to get at here. I cannot sign off on every single like Instagram post that everyone who canvassed for me or, got petition signatures for me ever has made. And that's kind of basically what we're trying to do here. Mamdani intern Hidika or Arzu Malik. We already went through that sentence, but I was just in election part of jihad. She recently said, I think it's time for Muslims to start to say, all right, so what? Do what you want. I'm going to do what I got to do because it's about time to do that. I know everybody has their own families and education and everything, but if we don't want to get doxxed, suspended, and arrested, how gangsta are you? Malik added, how much are you willing to do it? And I know everyone has their own risk level, but at the end of the day, that's a question to ask ourselves. How committed am I to this? To what extent of my personal material gains am I willing to sacrifice for this bigger noble cause? And so I think the thing there is like, we can't associate this with Zohran, but if stuff like this were to become more widespread, not just like a person here or there, then yes, it would be Zohran's responsibility to say, this is not at all what my campaign is about. This is not at all what my mayorship is about. And I do not claim these ideas.
Wait, what is the problematic idea here?
What are you talking like?
She's saying that, hey, stand up for what you believe in, regardless of whether or not you'll get doxxed, whether or not people will slander you.
This is the woman. This is the person who said that the election is part of jihad and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it means it's a holy war. I believe in this cause the same way I believe in fighting and dying for a deity, right? I understand the language there, but it's also for Trump, I'm sure at one point or another called his campaign a crusade. You can't.
Yeah, that's not good.
I don't think it's really that problematic.
Calling it a crusade, it's like that's where you get like wonky with the language of like separation of church and state, and becomes this like religious like zealousness, and it's like this religious quest. That to me is so scary when it's a religious quest from any religion.
Well, but for you to say, hey, this is just, right? Having this person being elected as an elected official is just. This would be the will of Allah, when the other option on the ticket is noted rapist, misogynist, sexual abuser, grandma killer, Andrew Cuomo. You can look at that and say the scales of justice from the universe have weighed in on this and said that this is truly a righteous cause. And we're talking about identity politics being so important to Zohran and getting him elected. For a young person like this to feel that passionate.
I don't think it was the number one thing, but yeah.
But regardless, I'm saying for you to have someone who's that young and invest in your campaign, that passionate, to say, hey, who cares if you dox me or take stuff away from me? That's how much I'm willing to fight for this. I don't have a problem with you because you use the word jihad,
But
and I'm the problematic one.
Right, I understand, but calling it part of a holy war. I think this is the kind of shit that is going to absolutely tear the city apart, and I don't think Zohran can be associated with this. But that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to tie religious extremism to Mamdani, when I don't think that is no matter how he feels in his personal life, I don't think that's the plan that he has for New York City. So that's the problem here. They're trying to find the most extremist person who is now not separating church from state, or mosque from state, or whatever we want to say, because obviously even saying separation of church and state is in and of itself Christian, which I'm actually just thinking about now. Never even crossed my mind, but it's so funny that the group, or the thing that is fighting against Christian nationalism is kind of complicit in Christian nationalism.
No, because there's never been a need for the separation of mosque and state. There's never been a reason for the separation of synagogue and state.
But it's just no.
This was a quote unquote Christian nation when it was founded.
but as we talked to Brian Silva about, it's like it covers all religions and everyone is included, right? So it's just like it's not like inclusive language. It's it's like separation of. It should just be separation of religion and state.
Fair.
That would just be like, it's just saying like, to me that language is saying like it never even crossed our mind that anyone would get bigger than the church.
True. I'm just the overall point I was making though is if this is the worst they can find.
Oh, I mean this whole campaign has been reaching. That's the joke of it. Yeah. Like we literally had to find one fucking rogue intern who made a video. It's crazy.
I mean, the focus on the fact that he's hanging out with literal terrorists and like smiling in pictures with them.
Yeah, I mean, like there was other like,
the woman who made being gay in Uganda punishable by death.
Did that one was pretty bad.
That's rough.
That one was pretty bad.
There's
I did see that one.
There's actual stuff to attack here. Why are you going after this poor intern who's passionate about a candidate?
Was that the thing? So I was like, I know she was anti-LGBTQ. Can you find me like a source that says she actually made that the thing? Because I was like, that's even worse than I had originally assessed. I meant to look into that further, but I did see that, and I was like, this doesn't look good. But it's also like the same as like every single person who is photographed with like, Jeffrey Epstein isn't necessarily a pedophile. It's like when you are a politician, at a certain point, you're going to end up taking pictures with people who have done bad stuff and maybe you don't know them. That being said, because he is Ugandan, I would guess that he did know, he would be familiar with her work. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, we went. Malik added, how much are you willing to do? And I know everyone has their own risk level, but at the end of the day, that's a question to ask ourselves. How committed am I to this? To what extent of my personal material gains am I willing to sacrifice for this bigger noble cause? They're trying to write it like they're going to do she's going to do like a suicide bombing, basically. Yeah. And I mean, like, yeah, she gets into it. Like she says, this is all jihad. This is all ibadah. This is all counted by Allah. How committed am I to this? What am I willing to sacrifice for this noble cause? Right. And it's like great if like if personally, like it is your religion that makes you want to be involved in politics. Like if that's like what pushed you or inspired you. But again, and this is for all religions, you can't be doing it because you want to push your religion on other people. Or have your religion, dictate legislation in a way that would not be fair to everybody. If you feel like your religion teaches to treat people kindly and with equality, and that's why you want to like do universal health care, like, okay, that makes sense. And then you can know that that's the reason in your heart. But I would say like, but also why did we need religion to make people, to make us think in our heads that people should be treated equally? Like, that's also kind of crazy. That's a thought I've always had about religion. It's like how sad it is that any of us needed religion to treat people decently because there was some eternal reward or punishment being offered. And like, that even made me sadder that we didn't want to just do it because it's the right thing to do. And I've thought that since I was a little girl. Like, that's crazy that we literally needed a cookie from the cookie jar or like the threat of eternal damnation to treat each other with kindness. That's crazy. That makes religion seem worse than just being not religious when you really think about it.
So the woman is the current the deputy prime minister of Uganda. At the time, she was the speaker of parliament. As the speaker, she repeatedly promised to pass controversial anti-homosexuality bill as a quote-unquote Christmas gift to Ugandans. She was very vocal in passing it in 2013, and the new updated act of 2023, the way the act stands right now, it can impose severe penalties, including imprisonment for consensual same-sex acts and the death penalty for quote-unquote aggravated homosexuality.
Wow.
It remains largely in
effect.
What's
aggravated homosexuality?
I mean, that is the question on everyone's mind, I think.
You wore white after Labor Day?
It says it remains largely in effect after being upheld by Constitutional Court in April of 24.
Yeah, that's not good.
So, if look, if you're Ugandan and spending, or, you're of Ugandan descent and spending that much time there, that you have a compound in Uganda or whatever the media was running with him for, when he got married a few months back, you should know the vice prime minister's stance on homosexuality, especially if you are such an LGBTQIA present candidate who's, showing up to gay bars at 1 a.m. the Saturday before election day.
Right. Yeah. And, and I'm sure that his, because his father is such, a famous Ugandan activist, that, he would also know, many people involved in government. In another viral clip, a pair of NYC women wearing Mamdani t-shirts posted.
Oh, shit.
What?
Sorry, I just saw the definition of aggravated homosexuality.
What is it?
A person, if you have homosexual sex with anyone under 18 or over 75.
Over 75?
Yeah. You can't,
That's weird.
You can't have gay sex with the elderly.
Okay.
A person with disability or mental illness.
Okay, I mean, that makes sense.
Fair.
But that also should be if you're not gay. That's a rule here. If you're not gay or if you're gay, you can't be doing that.
I call that the Jake corollary. What was the other stuff here? A person who is not consenting or unable to consent, aka rape. That's the death penalty for gay rape, probably not for straight rape. And
so weird.
An offender who is...
So in some ways gay people get more protections?
No,
so gay rape is you get punished for gay rape.
Yeah, but it's not that gay people are getting the protections. It's if a straight guy was raped by a gay person.
I see.
Then the gay person would be put to death.
I gotcha.
An offender who has a terminal illness such as HIV and transmits it to their partner through the act. So if you give someone AIDS, off with your head.
Right. I mean, that's punishable by law here, but not by death. Yeah.
And then finally, this one was the most egregious. A quote-unquote serial offender, a.k.a. a person convicted of a homosexual act more than once.
Oh, my
You
God.
could be put to death in Uganda.
Wow.
Thanks to that lady that Zohran was smiling ear to ear with.
Wow. In another viral clip, a pair of NYC women wearing Mamdani t-shirts posted, Sharia law starts now. Islamic Caliphate, our brother in Islam, Islamic Caliphate of New York starts today, baby. I think I saw, this is a different video, but I saw kind of a similar thing being said in a video that was shared by Tablet magazine, which I didn't know how crazy they were, but I follow a lot of weird news sources for this show. Popular X account Wall Street Apes posted footage of an Islamic prayer call in Times Square and claimed the comments in the original post were full of people calling for America to be a Muslim country. I'm sure there are people who want it, but again, we're just now associating random things with Zohran. There are hundreds, if not thousands. There are plenty of people who follow me who think a lot of weird things too that I don't agree with.
Yeah, but if you were elected mayor, they might be doing some woo-woo occult shit in Times Square. That's the point that this article is making, is that Zohran being elected has emboldened these people.
I get it. I mean, and we just, we experienced it with MAGA. But I mean, there's also nothing wrong with having a prayer circle in Times Square. It's a public space. You could have any kind of circle there.
Truly.
There are hundreds, if not thousands, of examples of prominent Muslims, and I also I saw people, lots of Muslim people, stopping for prayer many times before Zohran Mamdani was even a name that we knew in New York.
Yeah, but not like this video where it's one guy leading a group in prayer into a megaphone for other people to hear. This is not a common sight in New York City.
Right. I mean, technically, don't you need a permit for megaphone? I believe amplified sound, you technically need a permit. I think I'd have to double check that.
They are not enforcing that rule in Times Square. I can tell you that.
In Union Square, they are sometimes. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of examples of prominent Muslims detailing their scheme to take over nations such as America and others in Europe by slowly infiltrating rather than engaging in failed holy wars as their ancestors did. One imam told his followers that they should elect Muslims to school boards and local offices before working their way up to mayorships and eventually the president of the United States. Well, every group of people kind of has this plan, do they not? Christian nationalists have the same plan. So it's okay. He also accurately, so in all cases, like, we need equal representation of all people. So, like, yeah, if it starts getting off kilter, but it's like off kilter right now, it's like, okay. He also accurately noted Muslims having more children than the white American means that they have more warriors being born in the U.S. Providing a historical explanation of the Muslim world's failure to conquer Europe, one Islamist speaker said wars were the wrong way to take over and that they now are engaged in a soft coup of the West. A Muslim Brotherhood leader described how the Islamic world is using politics to push laws that favor and assist their takeover, with several others using the phrase by bullet or by ballot. Electing candidates who want to implement Sharia law is their new jihad. One man suggested Mamdani is engaging in Taqiyya, a practice where Muslims intentionally lie to deceive non-Muslims in order to fulfill the Islamic takeover of New York. I mean, like, okay, well, maybe there's a name for it in Muslim, but like, politicians been lying to people for their own personal gain, whatever that will be, for a long time. So, worst case scenario, he's doing what every other politician historically has done.
Yeah, like, remember when Trump said he'd never even heard of Project 2025?
Yeah, I was like, lying, you mean? I was like, that would make him more of a qualified politician than anything he did during his entire campaign.
Who said this guy's inexperienced?
I don't think you realize how bad it is, the man said in a recent podcast. They talk about it openly. They'll literally be like, guys, we have to go out and say we love the gays so that we can take over the West. And then as soon as we take over, we'll kill all the gays. Yeah, I'm sure people have said this. People have said crazy things. Another Muslim man told conservative filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza that they are intentionally using the Democratic Party as a vessel to rise to power because the left is very stupid, while Republicans are a threat because they have values and principles. In the UK, where the Islamic takeover is years or even decades ahead of where it is in America, Muslims also proudly boast of their diabolical ambitions. We're here to take over your country. You can't stop us. You can try, but we're here to uphold Sharia law, one Muslim told far-right Brits. A smug British newscaster tried to ridicule American journalist Natalie Winters this week for her opposition to the multiculturalism that has destroyed his country. And she turned the table on him by calling out Islam's promotion of child marriages and its issues with molestations, beatings, honor killings, and other Stone Age problems. I mean, molestations, beatings, and murder is also a problem for America. So not child marriages, but certainly child molestation.
Sure, but I mean, England's pretty bad right now.
Well, I mean, it's like you see things and you're like, oh, okay. You're like, again, like, just like, I feel like it's like no one group should have more say than other groups. And if that happens with any group of people, and you see any group of people, whether it be men, whether it be Christians, whether it be Muslims, whether it be Jews, any one group of people should not be thrusting their ideals upon other people, period, hard stop. Like, so if we see that happening with any group of people, yeah, we should say something. We should do something. We should act.
I'm also going to argue that no group should be protected, so that, like, to the point where if they are trying to, inflict those views that, people, like, there are reports coming out of England where guys are going to a place where their 14-year-old daughter is being held in literal sex slavery and being told by the police they cannot go into that place and get her because, they'd be offending the Muslim people that were living in there.
I need an article.
I'll pull it for you.
I need an article from a reputable source, not flatearthers.com, Michael. Warning Americans, one British man posted, like, because that's just something I feel like would have made it to the guys we fucked inbox, honestly. We have a ton of British listeners. Warning Americans, one British man posted an image of the Statue of Liberty wearing a full burqa with the message, "Dear cousins in America, we have had a socialist Muslim mayor in London for what now seems like a lifetime. Somehow he's always getting voted in. He has destroyed what was one of the greatest cities in the world. We're praying for you, New York." All right. Oh my God. And the last clip is like freaking Gavin McGinnis. I haven't thought about that guy in way too long, and it's made me happy. Do you have this child marriage or this 14-year-old sex trafficking article, Michael?
So I don't have an article. I have a
tweet.
I know I have a video on Instagram from GBN News, Great Britain News. They have over 1 million followers on Instagram.
Let me before we even get into this, wait, Great Britain News. I need to check what this is.
This is their
GB News. Okay, Britain's news channel. Okay, is this reputable?
Yeah. Let's see if it's reputable.
Wait. It's a right-wing opinion and news channel. So this is Great Britain's Fox News, or worse. Maybe it's their Breitbart.
See, can you see where it ranks? Like on that would be a great service to show us all of the countries in the world.
Oh, and I usually just ask someone from that country. That's my source.
Right. I'm saying there should be an algorithmic way to set that up so it's like this is, Spain's Fox News.
Wait. It is regulated by Ofcom, but polling consistently suggests it is the least trusted, in bold, of the main news broadcasters in the UK.
Okay. So the Fox News of England.
I mean, it sounds like the InfoWars of no, I guess it's main news. So yeah, Fox News, yeah, like main. Yeah, is Breitbart's not main news? That's still off, right?
No, that's fringe shit.
That's still fringe, and InfoWars is super fringe.
I mean, I look. This guy has been interviewed clearly by a bunch of different people. Maybe the journalists are a little harder on him on other things, but I think this guy's story is.
What's this guy's name?
It doesn't say. It just says the father of a survivor.
Okay, just because everyone's going to be on the edge of their seat now.
Being abused by gangs and the police were doing nothing, but they did come for you. What happened when you tried to save her from an abuse den?
I was arrested outside, put in police car, taken away. We lived up next estate, so as we were passing, the stopped car told me that I would be arrested, to go in house and don't go back. I was that mad and furious. I went back to the flat. Within a few minutes, police were back, but this time in a van, and it were only a few minutes. So there must have been some on the street waiting, because they must have known I was going back.
So they were watching this flat where your daughter was being abused. They weren't going in to save her, but they did go in to arrest you.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yeah. They arrested me second time, took me down at the police station, kept me in there. About an hour and a half later, they come into, because they didn't put me in a cell, they put me in a room. They took me out of the room, took me out through the police station, into the front bit with public, go to report crimes. Took me outside and said, right, go home, because if you go back to that flat, we're going to arrest you for stalking. And I don't know if you know or not, but there's serious new stalking laws coming, and we'll arrest you for stalking the occupants of that house.
Your daughter was being abused.
Wow, it went all the way to stalking. That was quite a roller coaster ride.
They were going to hit him with stalking charges. So yeah, leave your daughter to the wolves.
I mean, so I guess like you could compare that to like it, every group of people ends up having like their version of the mafia, like not their version. Mafia is mafia, just be associated with Italians, but like every kind of group of people has their mob. So maybe this is like the Muslim mob. I'm sure it exists. So yeah, mobs are doing bad stuff, and as you get larger, you have a better, more powerful mob. I don't know. Again, I don't want to judge that guy based on his speaking voice, because I don't want to be a classist like people in the UK. But I mean, I guess he seems a little old to have a 14-year-old daughter.
Okay. I mean,
don't know.
they age different in
That's true.
parts of the UK.
That's true.
In Scotland, they live on nothing but haggis and fried Mars bars.
I don't know. So guys, like if you're in the UK and there's any validity to this and like you've heard anything about it besides this like one guy, I don't know. Let me know. You know, I love to get on top of a sex trafficking story. One of my favorite topics.
Illuminate Corinne about the groomer gangs, or illuminate me on how I've been hoodwinked, because that happens.
You know,
often.
like listen, we don't know. Maybe like this is again. I always talk about how I said that sex trafficking was prevalent in the U.S. and everyone made fun of me 10 years ago, and now it's just like a known thing, and there's signs in airports and everywhere. So like, yeah, maybe maybe it is. And like, but it's more so like it's like, I would say it's less so that this is like, a problem that is specific only to Muslim people. It's that this is a problem. Sex trafficking and like sexual abuse of minors is a problem, period. It's not, I don't think it's like really specific to one group. So yeah, they're doing bad stuff because they're people. I just like it doesn't seem like Muslim specific, but I understand what you're saying about like the protections. As any group gets larger and more powerful, they are protected in different ways. So yes, I get that.
But I mean, it's also this idea of like, okay, we're going to use government overreach to make a certain people a protected class because they truly are not powerful.
I agree.
Right?
I mean, it's the same argument that people have about not Jewish people. So I mean, I get it.
I'm just when you make any group a status elevated above the law or like different from other citizens, that's
I agree.
just going to breed conflict.
Of course. No one should be above the law. All right. Well,
God forgive them. They don't know what they're doing.
What an episode, guys. Thank you so much for joining me and Michael on this episode of Without a Country. Make sure to get those tickets to Guys We Fucked Slutsgiving next Friday, November 14th at the Crown Hill Theater in Brooklyn. Going to be so excited for that. And follow me on Instagram at Philanthropy Gal, on Threads. I'm on Twitter, although it's not really fun anymore. Threads more fun. I am, I'm going to start, I think, maybe breaking up my political stuff and only putting my political stuff on Without a Country podcast, Instagram. It depends. But I think like I need to split up the comedy and the politics, because it just like they don't mesh well together, and I just end up losing and gaining the same amount of followers. So, and I would like to just grow both separately. But I am the same person. And what else? And Mike, do you have anything to promote?
Yeah, big show coming up November 20th. We are going to be doing the Armored League at Melrose Ballroom. We're bringing in some ringers, so guarantee that it's not going to be the same main event. We're bringing in some really talented fighters from all over the East Coast. We got a dope singer doing the national anthem. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Come on out. Tickets at thearmoredleague.com. And that same night, Anxiety Attack, New York Comedy Club, 10:15 show. Lineup TBD. Corinne, you in town?
What day?
11:20.
I feel like I just got booked on something for 11:20. Okay, we can do this off air.
We can do this off
air. We don't
air,
need to be
but
booking
buy
on
tickets.
air.
Somebody good will be there.
Anxiety Attack's always good. And then and then make sure to subscribe to the Without a Country YouTube, and of course, if you want to subscribe to the Patreon, it's patreon.com/withoutacountry. Thank you so much for being here. And just keep your finger on the pulse of these elections. Try to help out, the Democratic candidates, or even if you're Republican, help out your Republican candidates. I can't tell you, just help out the candidates that you support in your area. And get involved in politics. And even if you don't want to run for something, there's something that you can do to assist a candidate, whether it be your time or your finances, or literally something, as small as just sharing, something about them with someone in your life who, usually doesn't go to the polls. Something as simple as that is super, super helpful. Thank you so much for being here. Continue critically thinking, and I hope you're celebrating if you're a Democrat, but let's not rest on our laurels. We have a lot of work to do. Bye.